Greetings, and welcome to House of R, a Ringerverse podcast on the Ringer Podcast Network. I'm Mallory Rubin. Joining me today to remind us that one need not intend harm to do it. That's what we told Carlos and Jacob before we started recording in terms of the likely runtime today. It's Joanna Robinson.
Oh, hi.
Hello. Joe, we are here to dive deep.
Profoundly deep.
Deep into episode 4 of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. And we're going to do that right after this. All right, a quick refresher if you don't know now, more than halfway through the season, how we do this.
I'm sure they do, but if they
Every
don't.
now and then someone's like, maybe this is the first pod they listen to. How do you guys do it? Thanks for asking. And everyone else is like, guys, I've been listening to you for dozens of hours at this point in this show and years. All right, Talk the Thrones. Back to its usual schedule.
Sunday.
Because there's not the Super Bowl this weekend. By the way, the Patriots ate shit. And that was great. That was wonderful.
Sorry, Arjuna.
I sent him the least authentic, I'm so sorry, pal note ever. It was,
This is miraculous timing. We're already off
I
topic.
know. It's even for us, it's impressive. So we will be back on Sunday night, right after episode 5, which is somehow already the penultimate episode of the season of television.
Devastating.
Sad.
Devastating.
With CR, with the crank daddy himself, Chris Ryan. Is that a private nickname or do we say that on pod?
You say it all the time on mic.
Great. Great.
I'm sure he loves it. Speaking
Captain
of crank daddies,
Captain Crank. And then we'll be back.
it's Valentine's Day week.
Wow, look at you. See, if Chris were here, he'd say, what a segue, because that's the thing he likes to say, but he's not, so I said it.
Okay. It's Valentine's Day this week.
V-Day Quickie.
We're doing our third
annual
V-Day Quickie episode.
Yes. So that's a series, but we're kind of pairing it with another series.
We're doing, it's like technically a best of the century so far episode, but we've decided what is time, what is a century, we don't really care.
No.
So we're doing a Valentine's Day special that has to do with like romance and
Sex stuff
go.
Sex stuff go.
You sent me categories, I believe 50% of them were sex-based. We
Then
might
I
modify
said,
that a bit.
Do you have any additional ideas?
Correct.
Open to feedback.
Correct. But we're going to do something sweet and romantic and smutty for Valentine's Day this week.
Will we be breaking the whiteboards back out?
We will be breaking the whiteboards back out.
Fantastic news.
That is happening. And also, people are like, wait, I heard you were doing Buffy season 3
they're
part
like, you guys
2.
definitely made the mistake you said you were never going to make, which was commit publicly on the record to a schedule for a podcast.
I don't know if anyone noticed, but then we had some technical difficulties last week. So we decided to give ourselves a break.
Yes.
And we'll be wrapping up Buffy next week. We promise. Spoilers.
I can't believe you promised.
I
mean, we
did.
do intend to, but a promise on a Thrones podcast?
I laughingly promised.
Promise me, Ned. Promise me. Yeah, spoilers. How do we do it? How do we navigate spoilers on this here podcast?
Listen.
Yeah.
Do we like context from the larger Game of Thrones universe?
We love it.
Has anything that has ever been filmed and showed on television for Game of Thrones on the table? Yes. Yeah. Anything from A Song of Ice and Fire, that book series on the table? Yes.
Yeah.
The Duncan Egg novellas?
That's right.
Only up through what the show has shown. So we will be giving context in the books, but if it's anything that comes in the near future for a dunk and an egg and anyone associated, that is going in our book spoiler section at the end of the podcast. There is a sound that has traumatized the nation. Dare I say the globe? Thank you, Carlos. But they're not making the mistake of listening to spoilers they don't want to listen to.
That's right.
So that is also true.
Fantastic stuff. Last question before we get going.
Oh, please.
How can everybody follow along and how can they reach us?
Well, listen, if this is your first podcast and not your 900th hour with us, why don't you just subscribe to the pod and wherever you get your podcasts?
Great idea.
I think that's a great idea. You can watch us. We're both wearing blue knitwear today. That's a sight to behold.
We are. Mine is like shedding a lot. So if you see us,
if you see dust motes, if you see like Angora motes in the air.
Here's one.
That's Mallory. Okay. So that's video worth watching on YouTube or Spotify.
That's right. Right there in the Spotify app, video podcasts. Incredible.
Hell yeah.
I love it.
Also, follow us on the social media platform of your choice.
Do it.
Instagram, TikTok,
Yeah.
Twitter, whatever
Sure.
particular nightmare you choose to engage with. That's your business, not ours. And then last but not least, of course, and we got a ton of great ones today.
Yeah.
Did we not?
Wow, the Bad Babies were at the keyboard this week.
Rare form.
Yeah. Extra time, because of course this episode of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms posted on Friday because of the Super Bowl. Did I mention that the Patriots embarrassed themselves in the Super Bowl?
And did we record this deep dive earlier? No. It's Tuesday, as per usual.
You know what? That's okay.
No, I know it's okay.
Looking at the ocean?
Oh, I agree. It's definitely okay. Just saying. It's Tuesday.
When
will this go up? That's up to the tech gods to decide. But we're recording this Tuesday morning. hobbitsanddragons@gmail.com if you ever want to email us.
Great stuff. We'd love to hear from you now and always. Send us your thoughts on this television show. What else is coming up that they should email us about? I mean, Buffy, ships, yearning, sex. I mean, fictional character sex for the V-Day special.
I'll say this. I'm going to drop a hint. We're planning to do a Nolan podcast.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. Yes, we are going to resume the Nolan.
And we're just wanting you to bear in mind, if you're like, which one? I'm just going to say, I don't know. Think of a major release that's coming out next month that we might be unhealthily obsessed with, and think about what Nolan film might connect to that. And that is your hint on this podcast about what we're doing next.
Great stuff.
Love to be cryptic.
Some might say needlessly so, but others might say I love a riddle.
Cheers.
Oh, God. We're doing great today.
Yep. Should we start?
Let's do it. It is time for the opening snapshot. All right. We have such, even by our standards for a 30-minute television program, such a robust deep dive. Today, we are really going beat by beat. We are going to try to keep the opening snapshot a little tighter today and just say, what did we think of episode 4? If you haven't listened to Talk the Thrones yet, you haven't watched Talk the Thrones yet, give people a little taste of what we'll be breaking down beat by beat, word by word, frame by frame from here. Did you like this episode?
I need you.
Did you like it?
to slow down.
Did you like it?
I loved it.
Same.
I'm obsessed with it.
I
keep thinking about it. I cried multiple times watching it. Yeah. I love hearing how much other people loved it.
I know.
I'm really, really excited about it. On the naming front, and this is just the only thing I want to say, we've been tracking sort of the titles of the episodes and whether or not when we get an episode called Hedge Knight or the Squire, and whether or not that character is actually a Hedge Knight or actually a Squire. The 7.
Which character was actually packing the hard salt beef? You always skip that one.
Well,
should you?
Doesn't help my thesis very much. But are the gods really actually here and involved in this? I mean, we have a lot of theory emails that we got from our listeners. Thank you so much for engaging in the are the 7 actually here question. But like, what divine justice is really at work here? It doesn't seem to be, I don't know. It doesn't really feel like if there are just gods out there that they're really involved in what Aerion is pulling here in this episode. So,
and just inside of the George universe, such a deliciously compelling and rich concept that's something like a trial of 7 combat in basically like the form of war at that point, when 14 warriors have
and Raymun
unblunted real swords, lances of war, as Raymun is happy to point out. You know, to invoke the gods in that capacity, the areas where the characters inside of this universe look to the Septons, invoked many times across this episode, either directly or subtly, or a religion for some sort of cover, justification, comfort. When is that contradiction impossible to ignore? Wonderful title for this episode. I love it. I also love that it was just 7. Not the 7.
Just 7.
Trials, just 7. Great stuff. You mentioned other people liking this episode a lot. I love this episode. This is my favorite episode of the season. I've loved the season. This is my favorite. This is like one of my favorite Thrones episodes, period. Like, I just thought this was fantastic. Easily the one I've heard from the most. For other people in my life being like, that was dope.
And this is what we've been saying all season, that we were just like really hoping in episode 3 with that reveal, and then in episode 4 with the like, you know, gathering of the teams and the Baelor moment that we get, that like people would start talking up this show and hopefully hooking other people into watching it. I'm really, really hoping that the word is going to spread.
Same.
I have not felt this profoundly about a Game of Thrones story.
Yeah.
Genuinely since Jaime knighted Brienne is the last time I got this emotionally invested with love.
What an appropriate association.
I mean, House of the Dragon, we have so much love for. Viserys' Long Walk. There's a number of moments that like really did work for me, but I haven't felt this just like my heart being like sort of pulled out of my chest with how emotionally invested I am in what's going on since 2019. So it's been a minute. Here we are.
That was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago.
Let's hit some of the opening snapshot mailbag.
Yes, really quickly.
Submissions.
Zipping right through. Okay. We got an email from a couple people saying this is their first Game of Thrones thing they've ever watched.
Wow. I love it.
That they're like listeners of our podcast and they're like, Game of Thrones has been too intense or violent sounding or all this stuff for me.
Right.
But it seemed like this one, you guys talked about the tone being a little different. It seemed like this one could be one that I could get into. And then they're like, can I now watch Game of Thrones? And then we actually heard from one listener who was like, and I tried to start watching Game of Thrones and it's really brutal.
Yeah. What do you think about this?
I mean, I think there is enough sort of sweet and uplift and emotional resonance with the brutality of Game of Thrones to make it something that we think about fondly. And, it's not just like a shock and awe experience. There is just like beautiful language and absolutely just profound emotional connection to certain characters and character arcs.
For sure.
So, but at the same time, like several of the people who wrote in are like real Tolkien heads and they're really feeling
Professor's always welcome.
Well, they're really feeling like the Tolkien, the sort of Samwise Gamgee sort of energy off of this show. And I understand. And a lot of Tolkien people doesn't necessarily one-to-one translate to Game of Thrones. So like if Game of Thrones is not for you. They're not
wondering what was Aragorn's tax policy.
No, they're not.
Like George.
So if Game of Thrones is not for you, I think that's fine. Yeah. But like we will always advocate for several seasons of Game of Thrones as some of the best television that's ever existed. But if it's too nasty and brutal for you, then that's fine. Don't watch it.
I never know how to guide people with things like this. Much like when we get mailbag questions, sometimes we hear from the bad babies about like when is an appropriate age for somebody to read something. I never know. I feel like I have a genuinely really bad barometer for stuff like this, and so I'm always reluctant to try to guide anybody. But I think you captured it well. There is so much heart and cheer and levity and joy and beauty and wonder, along with a lot of really harsh realities. But, as we'll talk about today, I think one of the reasons that, we got like the Baelor moment in this episode, one of my favorite moments in the canon. I couldn't wait for this episode, iconic. But there's some heavy shit and some intense shit and some heavy ideas in this episode and like reminders
in these novellas. Like that's something we've been saying from the start, that the tone is different, but this is not like
reminders that this is this is a grim world still. So what else do we have here?
Jordan said, just wanted to say, since you recommended it was safe to read the first half of The Hedge, and I just want to give a friendly reminder that there is a massive House of the Dragon spoiler. So
my blanket take on this is that is also true if you watch
Game of Thrones.
And this is just one of the realities of the way that George in the text, and then of course the adapters who are bringing these stories to the screen, sprinkle in connective tissue across the world. You may have absolutely no reason to anticipate that you will hear about something from elsewhere in the canon by a century, 2 centuries, and then there it is. Somebody says something.
Usually Joffrey.
Often Joffrey. Yeah. You kind of have to make peace with that. I think that is like a difficult thing to navigate entirely, but you could just avoid it completely if you wanted.
Good shot from Jordan. Nicole, I could say this for later, but I just needed it here up top. Nicole wrote this email. Really? I mean, really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
His name is Humphrey Beesbury. Say his name. Will he die as he lived in scripted obscurity? I see you, Humphrey Beesbury. I missed you at first, but found you on a rewind trying to count to 7.
Yeah. Nicole sent that email. Nicole.
I don't need to hide behind the listeners. I am also outraged at the mistreatment of
my God.
Humphrey Beesbury. Justice for the bees.
Is he not making up for the very limited screen time, complete lack of any spoken words with the mustache? Is the mustache not
the mustache
doing
is doing
talking
a lot
for him?
of work.
What is he dyeing that with?
Honey.
This is why you're you.
Honey does lighten your hair. I've done it.
Really?
Yeah, when I lived in Hawaii, I would put honey in my hair to lighten it. Yeah.
When I lived in Hawaii. What a flex.
But just like the Beesbury, of course, are using
not
honey
when
to
you were in
their...
Lottie's honey cult and Yellow Jackets, or also then?
I'm still in that cult. Okay. Nick wrote this, which felt very appropriate for The Ringer, with the insinuation that Lord Ashford is offering up to his sons to throw their joust to help recoup the money he's overspent for his tourney. Lord Ashford has to be kicking himself for not having a heads up to properly market for the greatest fight card in the history of the Seven Kingdoms. Imagine the proclamation posted in every town. Targaryen versus Targaryen. Fossoway versus Fossoway. Apple Wars.
Here we are.
First trial by 7 in over 100 years. Don King couldn't have put together such a bout, and Lord Ashford could, at the very least, break even had he known what was in store for the main event of his tournament. So,
incredible Don King reference in a Bad Baby email here on the House of R. You love it.
And I understood it.
Good. There we go.
I was alive
Are you a big
in the
boxing
90s.
fan?
No,
just kind of absorbing it via osmosis.
Yeah.
Makes sense. I think that Dunk, knowing as he did from Plumber that Lord Ashford was facing a dire financial circumstance, this should have been how he worked for more time. Because when it's like,
you have till dawn.
We must trial 7 at dawn, and it's like, what? Like, I need time for my pregame ritual. I need to stretch. I need to hydrate. Also, I need to recruit. Need to do some recruiting, some rest, perhaps, a nosh.
And if you had been like Lord Ashford, you need to get
Lord Ashford on the side,
the DraftKings, the FanDuel,
FanDuel here at the Ringer. FanDuel only.
Sorry, FanDuel only.
Our partner, FanDuel.
No free ads except for the paid ad for FanDuel.
Partner.
Got it. Sorry.
When Lord Ashford was forced by Aerion to crawl under the table looking for a rogue walnut, you think he found any coin down there?
I'm sure he did.
Did you think it helped?
He's searching every sofa in the Reach, trying to find a copper. Okay, and last but not least, this is with love and respect. A moment to talk to our dear listeners about sending us AI slop. I just want to let you all know at home, I'm the one who reads all the emails. And I think people know pretty clearly how I feel about AI.
Yeah.
And so when people send us like AI generated art, or in the case this weekend, I'm not trying to single this person out, but someone sent a fully arranged version of Alice with Three Fingers. And it's the kind of thing that I've gotten in the past from people who have actually put together pieces of music and sent like the files over via listener email and stuff like that. Like when we get art that people have made, we're just like on the moon. It's so cool.
Wonderful.
You send me AI stuff, I'm not reading it. I'm not watching it. I'm not listening to it. It's going straight in the trash. I am unfortunately the gatekeeper of the email, and that is my stance. So don't waste your time with it. That's all I'm saying. I'm just trying to save you time. AI generated stuff is not welcome in our inbox, but you are always welcome in our inbox, and we love you very much. hobbitsanddragons@gmail.com.
Astonishing portion of the Super Bowl commercials this year were for AI.
I heard.
It was harrowing.
I heard. Yeah.
All right, on that note, is it time to dive?
Let's do it.
Damn fucking deep, like Sir Arlen level deep.
That's a great gesture. Carlos, can you gift that?
Thankfully, my water bottle and computer are probably blocking it.
There's many angles in this room.
It's true. All right, it's time for the deep dive. Let's start where the episode starts. Dunk awaiting his justice. This was yet another episode with like a really compelling, really scintillating, either visual or auditory element at the open and close of the episode.
And you're not talking about shits and farts and piss or anything like that.
We will talk about farts eventually, because it is a Night of the Seven Kingdoms, and so we could not make it through an entire episode without a very prominent fart.
But yeah, Sarah Dina Smith, as we talked about last week, she directed last week's episode, this week's episode, and will be back for the finale. And I just think she's incredible, and I hope she's heavily involved in the next season.
This initial glimpse of what just looks like the constellations in the night sky, and then we come into focus and pan a little bit and realize it's the glistening stone of this cell in which Dunk is waiting as prisoner, awaiting his fate.
Insane.
And this idea of like only mere episodes and mere days for Dunk ago kind of justifying this, the absence of the pavilion, right? Yeah, sure, trees leak, but the canopy of those leaves is all I need, from a falling star brings luck to those who see it. So the luck is ours alone to this grim circumstance.
I was also thinking about the quote from the book when he sees the inn for the first time, right? And he says, when he was smaller, he used to wonder what it would be like to live in such a place, to sleep every night with a roof over your head and wake up every morning with the same walls wrapped around you. So to go from that, like how comforting that would be to like how trapped,
confining and dire,
harrowing it is. Yeah.
You mentioned Sarah Dina Smith, who is just crushing it directing these episodes. The guest on the official pod this week. Shout out Jason. Shout out Greta. Loved this insight into another element of the visual scape in this sequence because we were both really captivated by that constellation effect. But here's what Sarah Dina Smith said about the window behind Dunk.
Mm-hmm.
The window in the prison cell reminded me of a crown. Ellipses. Framing Dunk as if he were a king, but more like a fool, really, than a true king, someone playing at being powerful. So the idea of that image behind him and how inspiring that was when she saw the setting, I just thought was like a really cool little detail.
This was so validating to me because there's an image that happens way later that I want to talk about for a second right now, where I was like, am I overthinking this? And then when she said she framed the window that way, I was like, maybe I'm not. Right. And so it's like when he comes into the tourney ground at dawn, right before he sees who's there. And it's not the shot where you can see his shield and the tourney ground. That's a great one because the sunset on his shield and the dawning gray on the field are sort of mirrored for us. And that's like a very beautiful image. But when he walks through the threshold onto the tourney field, he's framed in this like portal. There's like a portal or a stone portal around him. Yeah. And then there's like an Ashford sun sort of chevron thing behind him, right? And I was looking at it, I was like, this to me, and I'm not an expert, but I like dabble a little. That to me looked like a classic like tarot card framing. And
I love that.
And so I texted Diana, my best friend who knows this shit better than I did.
Who is an expert.
Right. And I sent her the photo. I was like, does this look like a tarot card to you? And she's like, yeah. I was like, help me articulate why. So this is what she said.
I love this.
She said, in the traditional Rider-Waite tarot deck, there are a handful of cards that show a singular person doing one specific motion or gesture. They are often framed around a chair or a gateway or an arch, such that your eye is drawn to the single person rather than the art and the activity flowing around them. It also makes them appear as kind of a gatekeeper for whatever portal they're in front of. Someone you have to face to get past. Someone or some concept you have to respect to get past. You can see it with the Emperor, the High Priestess, the Hierophant, the King of Swords. I think Dunk's pose really echoes the Rider-Waite art style. It's framing him in a similar way, like he's posing to express one single facet of the human journey. Maybe doubt, maybe confusion, maybe none of this. And they just wanted to make him look epic and medieval. And invoking the art style of ancient tarot makes anything look epic and medieval. But I just like love that idea.
Doubt and confusion, certainly.
Right. And that like crossing a threshold, which we always love to talk about. But also if you think about, no, it wouldn't be because he comes in on a horse. It's not the same portal that Baelor comes through. But this idea that like all of the people on the field here have to get past this idea that Dunk is presenting of the true, he's the one true knight. That's who he is. When I saw that like frame, I was like, the knight. Yes. That's who he is. And all of these other people who fail to live up to this or are trying to live up to this have to sort of confront that ideal. And again, Sarah may not have had any of that in her mind, but like when I heard her say this window is a crown, I was like, then a doorway can be a tarot card if we want it to be. So I think there are just so many stunning visuals in this episode.
It was really cool, too, to hear her talk about the way that the shot, we're going to talk for quite a while later about Raymun's knighting and Dunk's reluctance and how that ties to the long-running fan speculation and the Arlen shrug we get. But Sarah Dina Smith talking about, I'm paraphrasing, but I think I have this right, that the crane camera just happened to pass above Peter Claffey and he looked up. And then she was like, this is perfect. So the combination of like very deliberate and intentional choices.
And then what you find.
Which is so meta for like the story that we're watching here. I just love it.
I loved that seeing that moment of the episode because if you watch the behind the scenes that they did where they paired episode 2 and 3 behind the scenes. Yeah. The moment where Peter Claffey was talking about how the statues of the knights look like wizard's chest from Harry Potter, you can see the B-roll from the set of him kneeling, and they had him kneel to pose like one, like he's right next to one of those statues for reference, and you don't see it framed in the episode. But I was like, oh, that's the moment where they're like, we need you to kneel in the exact pose of these statues that we have around here. And like, so the fact that like in that moment, the camera caught him like looking up is beautiful. We love an accidental stroke of genius.
Yeah, and especially because he's clearly wearing the armor from this moment in time, but then you cut to Arlen from the past. It gets your mind racing in this delicious way that connects to this larger reminder that we're in Dunk's point of view that we've been talking about all season. Like, well, what are we really witnessing that is true and pure? What is his recollection? Where is he in the present? Where is he in the past? I thought in general, this episode had a couple borderline dreamlike and hallucinatory moments, the cut from after he leaves the Great Hall to all of a sudden 1 frame later, he's in the rain. Moments like that, obviously, like, you had called on the trailer pod that he would be holding the head of a puppet, and he was, like, very spooky, very nightmare fuel, even though Florian is a figure to inspire a fool can also be a knight. We find a lot of heart in that, but there's something so, like, disorienting and unmooring about it. Just a really visually delicious episode and a thematically rich one.
Audio match of Tenzel's finger bone snapping and Steely Pate's like, wagon. It's just really, really high level stuff.
Great stuff. In general, just seeing Dunk in a cell, obviously for Thrones viewers, it's not a rare thing to see a character that we have become very invested in just trapped in a prison cell, or characters we are not rooting for trapped in a prison cell. Was somebody most, like, top of mind for you? Was it Ned receiving Varys' visits? Was it Tyrion in his sky cell, or Tyrion in the cells in the Red Keep? Was it Cersei and Marjorie and Loras? Anybody, like, who came most of mind to you? I think for me it was Ned, just because the idea of the Madness of Mercy, which is a famous Ned association, feels very Dunk core as well, and very connected to this question from Baelor of, like, do you need to intend harm to do it?
I love that. I think, as we talked about in Talk the Thrones, Oberyn's so top of mind for us here. So I think, like, Tyrion and Oberyn. Yeah. That's just a baby. I will
be your champion. The grabbing the torch.
Yeah.
It's just the best.
Yeah.
It's just the best. This rat has a name. We talked about the rat on Talk the Thrones. Naturally, we didn't miss the rat. We love a rat. We have Preston. Nope, he's not here. Well,
he's
Preston, boy, it's like when I pointed away from the camera last season. It was like, quote.
Yeah.
Preston will be back for...
Preston will return for Avengers Doomsday.
Preston will return as well. Shanice, apparently, is the name that this rat has. Talk about a quick shot and an image that gives us a visual association and a character beat as well. For Dunk, this is just such a tender, gentle moment. He's like, boy, I am alone. I had Arlen, then I had Egg, now I have no one. Let me pet and stroke this rat.
Now I have a rat.
So I loved when he goes to Thunder and Chestnut later and he's like, oh, lads.
Right, and Raymon's like,
lads.
Are you talking to your horses?
It's like, Raymond, you have no idea. You have no idea.
Do they talk back to you? On the rat front, I was thinking about how when he told Egg in episode 3 that his job in Fleabottom used to be to, like, get stuff for the Bowl of Brown.
Yeah.
So, like, how
Didn't
many
like
rats?
Some of the specifics that he mentioned there.
How many rats did he, like, maybe, you know, bring for? And now he's just like, I don't have to do that anymore. We can just
You're
be
my
friends.
only companion. Blood and Cheese. Personal fave, the Rat Cook. One of the great tales in Game of Thrones. Harrenhal torture scene. That's a dismaying rat association in the canon. We loved our Laris theories during Hot D and hearing from the Bad Babies about that. So this idea of the rat, you know, Hot D has had a lot of fun with this, like, as a visual representation of the filth and the rot of the realm, right? The secrets, the anguish, what are they witnessing when they scurry? So there's something about just, like, the rat as the only one to witness Dunk until Egg walks in, but also just then you're kind of like, you're unmoored in a really fun way when Dunk is gentle and you would expect something horrible to happen there. I love that contrast. But then there is another friend because Egg comes in and he's kitted out. He's dropping a fit, as the kids say. He's a little royal princeling for all to see. Tarred colors on the doublet.
Something I found out this week is, like, the reason his, like, robe and cloak are so, like, insanely long and stuff like that is that they fit him knowing that he was, like, a growing boy. And they're like, we just want to make this work for however he grows.
Tall you'll be by.
Right. Yeah. And the great news for them is that, you know, unlike the cast of Percy Jackson, Dexter seems to be growing, you know.
Right.
In increments.
No Mike Wheeler, like, his you're suddenly a foot and a half taller.
His dad is kind of a short king, so I wonder if they, like, looked at that and were like, we can keep this kid around for a minute. We'll see.
Interesting. Dunk's face here. It's not just the finery, the garb, but, you know, just as was the case at the end of episode 3, Egg is telling the servants what to do. He is undeniably in power, and Dunk has to see it. He gets the tray of food, just ravenously tucks into the bread, and then Egg begins to apologize. He says his uncle told him that he had to beg for Dunk's forgiveness, and Dunk is like the heir to the Iron Throne, and I love this because, we talked through the family tree when we were covering episode 3, the last couple pods, but there's something about the character saying it out loud like that. A little of The Last of Us, you can't heal something unless you're brave enough to say it out loud, but also, as is the case for much of this exchange, Dunk forcing Egg to own what he did, right? You didn't just lie to me. We're going to talk about lies in a second here. You lied to me about being a Targaryen. Your uncle is the heir to the Iron Throne. Your grandpa is the king. Say that out loud and let's just sit with that for a minute. So it's 2 seconds in the show, but I just and in the novella as well. But I love that.
No, but all of this back and forth, right? Like saying you never meant to lie, yeah, but you did, about everything starting with your name, and this idea. They're just so human in this moment. They're just like a man who's constantly insecure about being the fool, being duped, being too dumb to navigate this world. And then a little boy. He's a prince, but he's a little boy. Yeah. And so when he tears up a bit.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Which was incredible acting, but not bawling his eyes out, but just sort of that shiny-eyed, I've been caught and I didn't think I did anything wrong. Yeah, of course you did. That's why you lied about it. You know what I mean? I just think that whole exchange is so human and so and Dunk's hurt and his defensiveness in this scene, and then how quickly in the next scene he's defending Egg. Yes. He needs to say this.
Yes.
He needs to say all of this. He needs to feel all of this. But when push comes to shove, the moment that Baelor is just a little hard on Egg, he's a good boy.
Yeah. It's one of those great, you can only be hurt this deeply if you really actually care about someone reminders. I thought the performances from both of them in this scene were really, really lovely. I think that Dunk saying, yeah, but you did, about everything starting with your name is rich and interesting to parse in a lot of different respects. I think that the what's in a name focus has been present across this entire season, right? That conversation about Three-Fingered Alice last episode, was Alice really her name? Very tied to this idea of tall tales that become legend. Is Tencel too tall? Not too tall for me? What does it mean to say, to call yourself this thing, or for somebody else to call you this thing? From Dunk to Duncan the Tall, all the people who helped him, as you noted earlier in the season, say that thing out loud. Stand up a little bit higher. Be tall. The gods gave you tallness. Be tall. Egg on to Egg. And of course, yes, it is a lie, but it's also And to be clear, I don't mean to do too much PR for Egg here. We leave the PR to Chris doing it for Aerion on these pods. But, when all of this happens, when they meet at the end and he makes his move, it's not like he's thinking, I'll tell him my name is Egg and it'll be a sign of affection. But now, days into their relationship, episodes into our experience with them, you have this beat where you're like, well, who gave him the name Egg? As we talked about last time, it was Maester Aemon. It was his brother, the closest person to him in the world. There's an aspect of it now where it's actually you're calling me the thing that the people who love me call me. Yeah. There could be a bridge to closeness there and to an embrace, which, I just love these two so much. So I kind of want to think about it that way. But then, of course, there's the fact that Aegon is not just a Targ name. It is
it's the king's name.
It's the Targ name.
Not the current king, but it is the name of a Targaryen king.
How many Aegons have been king? Four Aegons. So they are, of course,
four Aegons.
Four Aegons. The Conqueror, Aegon II, who we are spending quite a bit of time with right now in House of the Dragon.
Tom Glencarney, yeah.
We're not going to say anything right now about Aegon III. That's not something that is possible to talk about right now. And then, of course, Aegon IV, the Unworthy, who made a few mistakes, including siring many bastards, the great bastards, whom he then legitimized on his deathbed, gave one of them, Daemon, Blackfyre, the fabled ancestral Valyrian steel sword of House Targaryen, and then a little thing called the Blackfyre Rebellion. Have you heard of it, lads? Happened. There are plenty of other characters named Aegon who never became king, but it's always a name that carries heft, right? That brings some sort of expectation either you as the person named Aegon have, or that other people have of you.
I think it's really interesting that the fourth son of the fourth son would be named Aegon. You know what I mean? That's a real make our move where he's like,
And it's
Aegon.
Totally, but it's like also a Baelor move to not name one of his kids Aegon. You know, Valar, Materis. Like the fact that as we've tracked across this season, we're in sort of a different moment in Targ history and this stretch of the family tree is interesting. Yeah, like it shouldn't have been available almost, right? But it was. And so that tells us something about all of them.
By the way, not that stopped like Alicent and Rhaenyra.
Of course not. Did it lead to any confusion
Maybe.
elsewhere? You were offended that I put this in the doc, but I couldn't help myself. One of, I think, the great moments in the television canon to point to for like, okay, if your name is Aegon, what are people going to do with that? Our guy, Chris's guy, Oberyn Hightower in House of the Dragon, season 1, episode 3, when Aegon is like a baby still. Hail, hail, Aegon the Conqueror, babe! Second of his name. It's like, bro, he's not king at that point. Second of his name. Are you kidding? But he was reminding people by invoking Conqueror that he was named for the Conqueror, that it's the name of a king. And then, of course, that brings us to like one of our shared favorites and the fandom's favorite passages from A Clash of Kings. This is the Clash of Kings. This is an all-timer. This is one of the things that Dany sees in House of the Undying. Rhaegar connects to basically the main character of the entire story. Jon
Snow.
Also named Aegon. Remember when people were speculating in real time, like, what would Jon's name be? I had really talked myself into Jaehaerys at one point. It was like, of course it was going to be Aegon, right?
What else could it be?
The man had her brother's hair, the passage goes, but he was taller, and his eyes were dark indigo rather than lilac. Aegon, he said to a woman nursing a newborn babe in a great wooden bed. What better name for a king? Will you make a song for him, the woman asked. He has a song, the man replied. He is the prince that was promised, and his is the song of ice and fire.
Hey, that's the name of the show.
What did Rhaegar do? This is obviously all connected to the prophecy, Aegon's Song of Ice and Fire, the dagger, which we got a lot of great emails about, and we'll talk about across the pod and have been talking about.
Mostly in the spoiler section, I think, today.
Yeah, but just this question that we've been tracking across Hot D and just in general of like,
who knows what,
who knows what, and then what do they do with that information?
Yeah.
So this idea that we love to bring up with Rhaegar of like, he found something in the scrolls and said, I must be a warrior. Okay, he's like, it's my responsibility to like produce the prince that was promised, I guess.
But I've decided there has to be 3 of them. So.
Oh boy, these characters.
So much for my vows that I swore and swore.
They make you swear and swear, though.
I guess so.
So many vows. Dunk asked Egg if it was a jape.
This is so sad.
To make a fool of
devastating.
Him. They both look miserable here, and I felt miserable because this was heartbreaking.
The donkey line was in particular like really tough.
You would have squired for a donkey.
Yeah.
Brutal. The fact that across all of these episodes, Dunk is very much like, must you mock me? That's what he says to Red and Benny and Daisy in episode 1. And like, is there any measure of a fool I fail to meet? This recurring refrain that he is like worried that he's out of his league. He's going to say elsewhere in this episode, basically like this not knowing my place idea is this thing that haunts him.
There are these times in the adaptation, because as we've mentioned a few times, Dunk in the book is a teenager, not a 30-something-year-old man, right? And so like there are times when that adaptive choice feels a little off. And then there's a time like this where like his insecurity about his intelligence, it's one thing if he's a teenager, but if he's a 30-year-old man who's been told by Sir Arlen his entire life, Dunk the Lunk thick as a castle wall.
Yeah.
He's, it's just something hurts my feelings much more about this like man being like, am I too much of a fool
carrying it
to
for
navigate
that long.
this world?
Holding Florian the Fool's head in his hands and thinking about hopefully the knightly aspect, just certainly the fool aspect.
Yeah.
Plumber approaching him for the bet because he's like, you're a mark. All of it. It's really sad. Egg explains to him, I was supposed to squire for my brother Daeron. He's going to have a really meaningful scene in this episode. Stay tuned. But like, he's a shit knight. Then I found myself thinking,
he kind of rules.
Daeron is just such a good character.
Really good.
Remember during the trailer pause when I was absolutely panicked that we weren't going to get this
stuff
with Daeron? And you were like, what the fuck is wrong with you? It's like literally impossible to make this show without that. The fact that Egg calls Daeron a shit knight made me think about how he asked Dunk, was Arlen a shit knight? And like, what does it mean for Egg to be a shit knight? Not just like, oh, he knows all these lordly names. Now we know why. He knows all these knights. He's the heraldry, etc. But like the idea that somebody's so close to him, he was supposed to squire for, he was supposed to learn from, is like, I'm actually just going to shave your head so we can hide out, and I don't want to do this.
But I got to shout out my guy Daeron. Because
We love it. We love him. We love Daeron the Drunken / Daeron the Dreamer here on the House of R.
But I think what should be, I don't think it's clear in the story, but like they ran away and he's like, they'll never look for us right by the turning grounds. Yeah. And that's why they picked that in, because he's like, they run away from Summer Hall and they could have gone anywhere, but he's like, we're going to go right nearby actually, because they'll never think to look for us there. And, you know.
I mean, you know, it's...
Maekar did. Maekar found him.
He did. He did. It's like, is anybody dropping golden dragons for cups of wine that should just cost a couple coppers? Just like, is that happening anywhere?
Snoring in puddles of wine.
Is anybody lifting their head and just saying, I dreamed of you to strangers? Is that happening anywhere? No. That's like the GPS of the Westerosi period.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting. Egg does have a couple beats where he's like, but he's never like, he reads the room effectively.
He never pulls rank as like, I'm a prince, how dare you talk to me that way, or any of that.
Right.
You know?
Yes. And he also is never like, hey, bro, like, yeah, I did lie and yeah, I leaned in and I pounced when the opportunity presented itself, but you're the one who thought I was the stable boy. I actually never told you that. And by the way, that's what Aerion did to you.
I
wasn't there for that,
I was
but still.
From King's Landing, but I said I wasn't from Flea's Bottom. You know, like there's so many ways in which
technically the CV checked out.
There's so many little loopholes that he wriggled his little bald head through. So, you know.
The novella, you know, obviously this is conveyed on Dunk's face and just the kind of the dismay, but also like there is much more in the novella because we're inside of his head to the full point of just him like feeling like such an idiot for not having realized who Egg was. That is definitely more prominent in this sequence in the book. In part because he's like, oh, they all have purple eyes. I really missed that, huh? But Egg does say to him.
Why would he feel like an idiot? You've been calling him an idiot for like in our spoiler section for this entire season.
I mean,
every time we're in the spoiler section before the reveal, you were like, he's got purple eyes, Dunk. Yeah, dum-dum.
I mean, it is wild to not notice the purple eyes in the book. Obviously not a thing in Showland, and so it's a little bit more forgivable. But, you know, they made Daeron's hair not full Targ silver, but like a little blonder in the show than it's supposed to be. He's like not quite as like light brown. But Egg, basically in the book, he's just like, I've got Aerion's hair.
Yeah.
I've got Maekar's hair. Like I got the real true silver stuff. If I hadn't, like if I didn't have a shaved head, there is nobody who would not realize that I was a Targaryen. Let's talk about this. Of course you did. That's why you lied. Reply from Dunk. I have kind of like a larger question for you here, which is, I guess, about us as readers and viewers, but also a little bit more about Dunk as a character. At this point, you know, we're going to talk later in the pod about the was Dunk knighted question and a lot of the textual evidence that's here in this episode and this stretch of the story. This is the part of the novella where he invokes in his internal monologue the words monstrous lie when seeing a shared tie between him and Aegon. Of course you did. That's why you lied. Like a lie is such an offensive thing to Dunk. Egg's lie here, which hurts him. Daeron's lie. This idea that Daeron has lied about Dunk being the robber knight. Dunk is a liar.
Yeah, and
how is he reconciling all of these aspects?
On behalf of my client, Duncan the Tall, I would like to say,
I say it with love.
I think there's something to do with like Arlen teaching him about what the definition of a hedge knight is, and the fact that the hedge knight operates under their own moral compass. It's not what the Lord tells you to do; you do what you think is right. And so there are ways in which, and I'm just justifying a lie, but there are ways in which Arlen has emboldened him to think of, well, I know what's right and wrong. And so in what ways am I not? Or I also believe that he believed that Arlen did intend to make him a knight. And then there's a way in which, like, if I do it, I am it. Like if I show up and I win this tourney, then who can say I'm not a knight?
Yes.
You know? And so, but I like that inherent conflict inside of Dunk.
Me too.
The most honorable character, you know, probably that George ever wrote. And the fact that like his entire story is based on this very human flaw, I think is delicious.
I agree completely. And that's why I thought it was worth us highlighting that dissonance and that contradiction for a second, because it is, and we've been tracking these aspects of Dunk and just in general, the characters who are, you know, positioned as the heroes in the story. It is just much more interesting than Dunk never doing anything wrong, never doing anything morally questionable. When he says this thing to Egg here, it is like, I know that lying is wrong because my moral compass, I have the moral clarity to know that. And yet, I have done this thing and for the right reasons because I want to be in a position to help people. But also like I have my aspirations and I have my ambition and all of that is in the stew there.
Last week, wow, you said stew instead of brew. Wild choice from you. Last week, when he told Raymun that he was like basically still thinking about Plummer's offer, we highlighted that, right? Where it's just sort of like, it would be way more boring if he's like, no, that's wrong, like constantly.
I would never consider it. I would never at all be inclined to consider the temptation of what I could gain from it.
That temptation and then what Dunk decides to do with the constant temptation that he's faced inside of these novellas is what is part of what's so compelling about him.
Speaking of compelling, I thought that Dunk, that quick beat of him saying, because he sees him crying, tearing up, as we noted, dry your eyes, which was like not outright cruel, but definitely he's
stern.
Like, yes, I am.
But very fatherly, honestly.
For sure. There's like a kind of like scolding, like, dry your eyes. First of all, it just like makes us feel Egg's age. Right. It makes us feel how young he is, which is an important thing. As you
and having him like sort of tucked in the corner with his little knees up and stuff like that.
Flopping down to the wall.
Yeah, just sort of like he looks so small, as he always does in comparison to Dunk, but he just looks, so young.
I love that paired with this dry your eyes is like Dunk. Oh, we couldn't. Well, Princeling couldn't be disappointed. And there is, again, that age aspect of well, of course, this like 9-year-old kid was excited to go do this thing and then felt sad that he couldn't and like behaved in a way that, frankly, I don't think people ever age out of, which is like being selfishly motivated to do the thing that feels right to you. But with the tears part of it, so there's the like, okay, that reminds me that you are a spoiled rich kid. We're going to get some real spoiled rich kid stuff from Aerion. And you've not lived a life where you always had to think about the way that your decisions impact other people. Mm-hmm. Now, part of what's cool about the time that Dunk and Egg have already spent together is that it wasn't the reason that Egg made the decision he made in the first place to go with Dunk. That was because he wanted to be a squire. He wanted to go to Ashford Meadow. He wanted to be in the tourney. But in just days.
Can I stay with you?
I think I could be quite happy in a place like this. So even though he didn't know Dunk at first, the impact that Dunk has had on him and that this experience of being among the commoners and the small folk and hedge knights has had on him is significant and supreme and genuine. Genuine.
It's also like a sour note version of their previous episodes teasing of like, oh, I only like soft foods and lovely grapes. It's disgusting. That sort of teasing is now just sort of like, oh, we can't have the princeling sort of disappointed.
Yeah. What did I kept? Boy, I fed a prince
salt
beef. Oh my God. Yeah. And I
taught a prince the whip stitch.
Whip stitch. And he was excited to learn it, wasn't he? The response that Egg had to seeing what Aerion did to Humphrey Harding and his horse last episode, also tears. And Dunk did not respond. He was like, lad,
you gotta be a lot tougher than that.
Yeah, you gotta be prepared. Bad things happen. Something terrible might befall me. A mishap. And Egg's like, it's not a mishap. But he wasn't like, dry your eyes, right? The tone here is driven by Dunk's personal hurt. And he's like, I'm gonna make Egg feel some things here, right? But we're just scenes away from Dunk sobbing his eyes out with Steely Pate.
It's just the rain on his face.
There is a lot of rain. So I just liked the way that the tonal shift and what Dunk says to Egg really shows us how wounded he is and that pain, and this is, again, just really human, the pain that he's feeling is driving what he says more than the actual reality of the circumstance. And the fact that he saw these commonalities between them. Oh, you mentioned your dead mom. Okay, we're both orphans. You said you're from King's Landing. We're both from Flea Bottom. And those were ultimately like presumptions that Egg leaned into and allowed, but presumptions on Dunk's part because he wanted to see those commonalities. He wanted to have somebody like him in his life who he could
not just
change something for the way that Arlen had for him. Oh, lads.
Someone to talk to that's not a horse. What the dream.
In case I forget to say it later, since we're talking about horses, let's just note that the reason that he finds Thunder, because here in the show, he goes just back to his elm, right, his camp, Thunder and Chess under there. But in the book, he's like wandering and he's just like, hears a horse make a sound. And he's like, that's Thunder.
Because in the book, and this makes a lot more sense, instead of just sitting in the rain under a tree, Raymun takes the horses to his tent and sits in his nice warm tent With the horses outside.
This is like a 99.9 out of 100 episode for Raymun. Just an iconic showing Pantheon stuff the best. Waiting in your cloak behind someone's tree in the shadows at their camp. Very weird. Also his laugh when Egg was like, yeah, my brother used to sneak into my room and threaten to cut off my dick and say he'd marry me and then killed my cat.
Aliens, like, Dunk. That's like, he's like, yeah, he did because you guys are fucking weirdos. I wouldn't laugh at that poor child's trauma, but I'm not a Targaryen racist.
Raymun. Oh my God. Raymun. Egg apologizes again. His voice is just so quiet, so soft, so small. And then Dunk says to him, it's just a bit of bad luck we found each other, isn't it? I was
crying.
Crushed.
Yeah.
What do we love about a chance meeting, Joe? Like this idea that we talk a lot about like free will and destiny, right? The idea that like it is exciting when characters make choices and exhibit free will and try to determine their own future. There's a lot of that with Dunk. When fate is sprinkled in and something happens where it's like either by happenstance or because it was meant to, this person came into my life and we found each other and we never thought we would. And then like, what a meaningful, beautiful thing it was, you know?
You think about, I mean,
like our first meeting.
You and I. That wasn't a chance meeting.
On the internet and at conventions covering the exact same thing.
At a Game of Thrones convention. What a wild, crazy circumstance for us to meet each other. It's the opposite of a chance meeting.
It's like a beautiful thing that we love in these stories and sort of like the underbelly of it here.
I was actually thinking about this, like obviously Tolkien, but like thinking about Stranger Things. It's like, what if those kids had never met 11? You know what I mean? And it's just sort of like how many lives that impacted and how many people that changed. That chance meeting, you know?
And it's a great comp because there are obviously moments for those characters where it's like,
wish I hadn't.
What if we hadn't found you in the woods, right? Or stumbled upon each other in the woods? But
Bob might still be alive.
Damn, spoiler.
For season 2
of Stranger Things was just like 100 years ago at this point. Yeah, it was just crushing to hear Dunk like lament and bemoan Egg coming into his life when it is like,
especially when the luck is ours, you know. Yeah.
Baelor.
Your guy.
Dunk's shoveling the bread into his mouth and then he's like, what's going to happen to me? And Egg is like, well, Baelor wants to see you.
And he's like, oh, the heir to the throne is waiting for me.
Go now.
Forget the bread. Let's go. Okay.
Lovely honey dip for the bread, wonderful spices on the goat, but why don't we go now?
Yeah.
I've fueled up. I got my calories.
You think it's good?
I carb loaded.
Okay. Baelor's reading.
Yes.
Guess what he's reading?
Tell me.
Shout out again. Ashea, freeze frame master from History of Westeros podcast, about Maegor's Trial of Seven. He's reading up on the Trial of Seven in this history book here, which is interesting to me because it's like, it's Aerion who brings up the Trial of Seven, but like, you know, he wasn't reading about trial by combat. He was reading about the Trial of Seven, which like hasn't happened in a very long time. We'll talk about some of that history a little bit later when we get to it. But like, Baelor was like, what are all the rules and regs and permutations? If I bring up a trial by content, will Aerion, perhaps Maegor, number one fanboy who like loves to read about the life of Maegor the Cruel, we'll bring up we'll bring up the Trial by Seven. Fun fact about Maegor's Trial by Seven.
Yeah, went well for everyone.
There's Beesbury involved.
But there's always a Beesbury. You can always kind of find a Beesbury in the corners of history.
A Beesbury
in the margins of history.
Did he have any lines in that trial? I don't know. But, you know.
Did he shout Gods be good at any point? Honestly, probably. Because
was his
that was a
mustache
mess.
Honey bleached?
I hope so.
Who's to say?
I hope so. I just love that visual of like, you know, we talk about Baelor and we think about Baelor and the characters talk about Baelor as a wise character, a chivalrous character, an accomplished warrior, a character who exhibits grace, but also a wise character. And so this idea of like, yeah, it's strategy, it's intention. He's prepping. He's in the moment trying to anticipate what might happen. It's interesting that he's reading about Trial of Seven, I will say, because I do think that the scene with Aerion plays as like, oh. This is getting a little bit away from us.
It could play a bit more like, I was really hoping you wouldn't think of that. I was really hoping he was too dumb to know about that.
Shit. Yeah. Which is interesting if you underestimate somebody. But just this like visual of him surrounded by texts and tomes that he is not hand waving, but spending time.
Yeah, it's Lord Ashford's collection, and he's like, "What can I learn in this downtime?"
Yeah, he's like, "I didn't bring my armor. I'm going to have to borrow my son's, and also I didn't bring my mobile library. So can I pop into yours?" Did it make you think of Rhaenyra just because we've spent so many scenes in Hot D with her surrounded by these scrolls?
Once again, like
any
really fun to like. I really, in terms of rewarding freeze frames, these like scrolls and manuscripts, like freeze frame moments, like the props department, the art direction on the show, they're just like in there, just doing the work, putting the history down on the scrolls in illuminated style. It's really great.
Dunk walks toward Baelor. He bends the knee. He kneels. And Baelor tells him to rise. And we have gotten a moment where Baelor has greeted Dunk and said, "No harm was done, sir. Rise," in episode 2. And the tone is notably different here, and that just kind of sets the mood.
But it's still like, "Sir, rise" is...
The respect is there.
But it's knighting language.
Absolutely.
Kneeling in front of your sovereign and having him say, "Sir, rise," like there's
encouraging
so many...
him to request the trial by combat in the first place. Like all of this is through the lens of considering Dunk as a knight. How good of a knight are you?
Not just that he's already considering it. I'm just saying that there's like all these little moments throughout the season, and most specifically when we get to Lionel later, but like where Dunk was like, kind of knighted along the
Across the way.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that's the big does it really matter if Arlen didn't do it question when the soul of the thing is there, the lesson and the example, and also, all the mini knightings. It's just delightful. Baelor's pretty somber. The mood is tense. He sombers. He tells Aegon to pour Dunk a drink and then says, like, try not to spill it on him. Tough feedback.
The cupbearers get a lot of shit in general.
They sure do. But they get to like really soak up and observe a lot of it. Egg is kicked out of the scene in short order here. But this is where, as you noted in the show, Dunk comes to Egg's defense and is like, he's not going to spill. He's a good boy. He's a good squire.
Dunk in general in this scene is much more like combative than he is in the book. More
assertive, more aggressive, standing, pushing, charging toward Baelor.
What would you have done? Like, isn't this the right thing to do?
Yeah, versus Baelor just like offering up that, but like I'm a prince of the realm, not a hedge knight. Those subtle tweaks are very interesting. In the text, it's in the earlier scene with just Dunk and Egg where Dunk begins to soften. We're both from King's Landing still, the boy said hopefully. Dunk had to laugh. Yes, you from the top of Aegon's Hill and me from the bottom. That's not so far, sir. And then, of course, the quote that we've already alluded to and that we will be coming back to later, Dunk looked at him thoughtfully. He knew what it was like to want something so badly that you would tell a monstrous lie just to get near it. "I thought you were like me," he said. "Might be you are. Only not in the way I thought." It's just one of the all-time passages and moments in terms of understanding Dunk and what that points to about Dunk and the knighting question.
Yeah, the monstrous lie is just really one of the biggest clues that we have.
Truly is like real, like it's the equivalent of the sound effect that Carlos puts in the pod when you're getting to the spoiler section. It's like, can't really miss this. You knew what it was like to tell a monstrous lie. This rebuke here from Baelor is what softens Dunk, and it's kind of nice to see the audience for that, the affection back on public display, but just the gratitude on Egg's face, right? He's like, oh, not just you defended me, but I have you back, right? It's just such a lovely little moment.
You've been doing a great job tracking like the lessons that Egg is learning and like what to think about, what Maekar has taught him versus what he's absorbing from Dunk. So like
mostly about horses.
To see Dunk give him this grace in this moment.
Yes.
And to say, oh, you can be gracious even if someone has wronged you and put you in peril. You can be gracious. And then I think most especially when he sees Baelor ride in at the end. And this question, you have it, I think, conservatively 100 times this note.
What makes a night?
I
did it last time, right? I might have to get this tattooed at the end of the day because
what makes a night a night is your constant question, and the answering question I've been bringing up all season is what makes a Targaryen a Targaryen. Yeah. And so for Aegon to see Baelor come in at the end and say, "Oh, a Targaryen can be that." It doesn't just have to be. It doesn't have to be Aerion. It doesn't have to be Maekar.
Thank God.
It doesn't have to be Aemon like fucking up to the citadel, fucking off to the Citadel, which is like we love Aemon, but like. He's abdicating his entire Targaryen identity to do that, basically. And he's like, one can be a leader. What makes a knight? What makes a Targaryen a Targaryen? What makes a leader a leader? And these are all things that Egg is sort of learning on the go.
I love that, especially in this family, this group of people. The tension from within, something that we'll be talking about a lot today, something we talk about a lot when covering the Targaryens across various points in the timeline. And so whether it is inside your own house and dynasty or across the realm, if you were a prince of the realm, like the capacity to forgive, it's a very like Jaehaerys idea, you know? I love that observation. It's really, to think that this could be such a pivotal moment for Egg to observe that is such a great shout. On the like, really, this is an all-time line front.
That's interesting that you really, I mean,
I love this one.
Say the line and then I will say what I
This
think.
is Baelor replying here to what Dunk says in Egg's defense. Beat for beat, word for word from the novella. One need not intend harm to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great line. It's just never stuck out to me as like, you're like, this is one of the best lines in the entire canon.
It's one of my
Song of Fire.
favorites.
Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah.
And I've never really
thought
of it that way. Though, like, I guess because George doesn't often truck in unintentional harm. A lot of the harm that he trucks in is very intentional.
That's why I like it so much.
Interesting.
I think it introduces a note of variance that feels to me like it really rounds and fleshes out the world. And first of all, I just, have I mentioned before on our now 8 podcasts, 10 if you count the 2 trailer pods, about this very brief so far season of TV, that Baelor is one of my favorite characters. So
do you like Baelor?
Just love Baelor Breakspear. Part of it is that, and I think this Birdie performance it's everything I was hoping it would be. It's just so great. So part of it is just like Baelor's wisdom, I think, is really on display there in a way that I love. But I think it feels to me like it conveys a elemental Thronesian quality of like, okay, malice, negligence, neither, both, like all of those things can wound somebody. The things that we do impact other people, and like sometimes in ways that we don't bother to think about or anticipate, sometimes in ways that maybe you genuinely never could. The idea that intention, I feel like I often quote the Steve Rogers, like, you know, safest hands are still our own moment from Captain America Civil War when talking about intention. And I feel like so often my impulse as a reader or a viewer is to gravitate to the other side of this. It's like, well, what did you intend? Was your heart in the right place? Like, then that's what matters. And I like that this idea, this line makes me think about the other side of it. Like in the real world, it's not that intention isn't important. A huge part of this story and the kind of like emboldening, empowering aspect of the hope that people find in it, that we find in it, the lessons that are on display from Dunk, Raymun, Baelor, and this episode in particular is like, actually, you deciding to give a shit, try, matters quite a bit. But I think an impulse that feels truly George R.R. Martian to me is that like, it's not always that clean, right? You know, the real world is messy. The world of Westeros, the land of ice and fire is messy. And so like this novella and this show that's so full of hope and charm and wonder and lessons that we do need and that I think are probably at this time in our really fucked up world, especially like something that people are finding finding a lot of heart and encouragement in, which I think is awesome and great and something that we were really looking forward to ahead of the season. And we made some Andor comps on that front. It also reminds us like, I don't know, life can be really, really harsh and unfair sometimes. You know, one need not always intend harm to do it. It's like, there's just a true quality to that I like hearing.
I agree with you, and I think it's really interesting. But when I think of George R. R. Martian sort of storytelling, I think of, spoilers for Song of Ice and Fire, like what Rob does.
Yeah, sure.
You know, and that's like, did he intend harm to do harm? Not necessarily, but also like,
I didn't want to marry the Frey girl.
He was told what would happen, and he did it anyway.
Sure.
And I think that's markedly different from Aegon, a pampered, privileged child, not thinking through the consequences of his actions.
For sure.
Know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Yeah. Baelor's got real like disappointed dad energy in this stretch, right? Tells Egg, all right, you should have come to me. You should have gotten me. Fetching Dunk was no kindness, he calls it. It was not a kindness to Dunk in terms of the circumstance that he found himself in here, but it was, of course, a kindness to
I don't think Tanzel would have survived the run to get
exactly.
Baelor.
Yeah, and so it's this interesting aspect, not with Baelor in particular, but just in general of like Egg and Dunk both being penalized, punished to some extent for wanting to help. Another real tough world reminder. But for Dunk, is he happy to be in the cell? Is he happy to be poised to navigate the circumstance, to hear what he's about to hear about what's going to happen? Of course not. But, we've talked all season about the Brienne-Dunk ties. There is a, undeniable Brienne saying to Pod about Renly in season 5, nothing's more hateful than failing to protect the one you love aspect of, 100 times out of 100, Dunk will go help. If he had been given the choice, asked if he wanted to, he ends up in that room. Undeniably, right? It's just who he is at his core. We talked about this a lot last week, the fact that just something internal, reflexive, instinctual takes over. If he had had the time to play out the string, he would have done the same thing anyway. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Then we get this really electric moment. Egg is very sullen. He's like, well, I just wish the Duncan killed Aerion. And Baelor leans forward and he's got some heat behind the words and he says, Aerion is your brother. And the Septons say we must love our brothers. I got chills from this. What did you make of the religious note here?
I think it's interesting that Baelor is presented as someone with this religiosity in a way that and especially when you get someone like Aerion invoking the Andals and Andal tradition when Aerion is the most, I think, probably Targaryen supremacist of the characters, the guy who thinks he's actually a dragon and is hiding behind an Andal tradition. The Andal tradition's all created in reaction to the Dragon Lords, you know what I mean? All these codes and all these religions are created in contrast to what the Targaryens are. So for Baelor, not Baelor the Blessed, you know, but still that name.
Yeah, for sure.
To sort of lean into this idea of the faith of the Seven and when we think about House of the Dragon and Daemon Targaryen wanting to get married in uber pagan style to Rhaenyra because he's we're dragon lords, blah, blah, this is what we lean into. And then we've got Alicent being the light of the Seven, her bullshit religiosity, you know what I mean? And it's
Still can't believe she removed the dragon orgy murals.
I mean,
brutal.
It's a tragedy against art, honestly. But
I agree.
But I think that this Targaryen in their flop era, Targaryens not being able to lean on the dragons for their power, have to lean a bit more into sort of what are the other sources of power? One of the sources of power is the church. So aligning yourself more closely with the church, as some other kings in Targaryen history have done. Yeah. Right? This is something that makes sense for Baelor in this moment, to just sort of lean into piety. But as someone who is thoughtful and a student of history and all this sort of stuff like that, it makes sense to me that he would look to the Septons, who are learned people, and sort of study at their feet. But I do think it's interesting that Aerion is your brother and the Septons say we mustn't love your brothers. Not he's a good guy or, family, even a Cersei family is the only thing that matters or anything like that. He's
anyone who isn't us is our enemy.
The rules say this. It reminded me, it actually gave me a Ned Stark moment, right? One of the most famous quotes from Game of Thrones to Arya, who's Sansa sucks. Yes. And he's let me tell you something about wolves, child. When the snow falls and the white winds blow, the lone wolf dies, but the pack survives. Yeah. Summer is a time for squabbles. In winter, we must protect one another, keep each other warm, share our strengths. So if you must hate Arya, hate those who would truly do us harm. Septa Mordain is a good woman, and Sansa is your sister. You may be as different as the moon and the sun. That was wrong. You may be as different as the sun and the moon, but the same blood flows through both your hearts. You need her as she needs you, and I need both of you. God's help me.
I love it.
War was easier than daughters, by the way, but but the same blood flows through both of your hearts. You have wolf blood, right? And so it's you've got dragon blood. The blood of the dragon gets invoked a couple times. So we might not have dragons anymore, as Daeron is quick to point out or whatever. But we share this dragon blood. It is important that we have to love each other.
All-time Ned quote. I almost got that tattoo. The exact one Sophie Turner has, the direwolf sigil with the lone wolf dies, but the pack survives.
But you have a matching tattoo with me instead of with Sophie Turner.
Plenty of room on my body left.
Wow. Cheap. One for me, one for Jason, and one for Sophie Turner.
I don't know if Sophie will be third. I would like to think of it more as
the dragon has 3 heads, and it's Joanna, Jason, and Sophie Turner.
I am itching for another tattoo. I think I'll get one this year.
I know. I've been hearing constant ideas from you.
I do have a lot. I mean, we're going to do our Lord of the Rings tattoo at some point.
I have a couple ideas these days.
Great stuff. I like that you on the Baelor as a student of history front, incorporated that because I think that is also undeniably present here. Talked on Talk the Thrones about the no man is as cursed as the Kinslayer reminder of just like, we side with Egg, we get it, Aerion's a piece of shit, but we have been trained inside of this world to think that this is like the foulest violation of nature. But then beyond that, this is great. Keep the hot takes coming. You're killing it this season.
I don't know if your brother's Aerion Targaryen.
Just
if it's the Mad King. Maybe
Ares, you don't need to love him. Maybe you don't need to love him.
Some kid needs to be slayed.
But as we'll talk about in a second, even Baelor has some things to learn. But I like that this is like clearly a position influenced by not only the needs of the moment and looking for the strength of those alliances and that support, but like the lessons of history populated and dotted across all of Targaryen history. You've mentioned the Maegor the Cruel Trial of Seven, and he's Aerion's problematic fave. That was nephews, Aegon, Viserys, not brothers, but it's kind of like one of the original violations of something sacred, original sin from which so much Targ fuckery stems. Of course, the Dance of the Dragons, which we're all watching unfold in Hot D, Rhaenyra and the Blacks versus Aegon and the Greens. This is a Targaryen civil war, but also one of our favorite things about the dance is like the strife inside of each of those factions. Those are some of the most delicious moments, even when you have aligned against part of your family in a civil war. You can't get along with the people around you on your side. It's just more interesting, but it's also like, this is who the Targs are. Your favorite, the Cargill Bowl, talking about a brother versus brother conflict inside.
The highlight of television.
It's your favorite. Blackfire Rebellion, as we've noted, a bastard brother, but still a brother. Daemon Blackfire, the Black Dragon, versus Daeron II, the Red Dragon. Bloodraven, Bittersteel, the Great Best. They're all brothers! That's what that war that is still such a blight on the realm right now was. And obviously we have, in the future of just the Game of Thrones canon, non-Targ examples too. We've got Euron and Balon Greyjoy, or of course is Renly and Stannis. The list goes on and on. And during the dance, we had Larys and Harwin and what happened there. So he's heeding lessons of history.
Sometimes you have, and I said this with love, like Thrones Tourette's, where you can't say something without you're like, is he a ham?
Is he a ham? I just love that moment. It's a great salt and smoke. Is he a ham? I mean, it was a reasonable question for Renly, I thought. But so, Baelor can feel those lessons of history, the echoes from the past, the ripples from the past, and he's looking around him, and he's like, okay, Aerion just taunted my son Valar in front of everyone.
You don't even need to be a student of history. The Blackfire Rebellion is just days ago, essentially.
Yeah, 13 years is nothing.
And, it's not really over,
right?
And so it's just again, Chris had no good points on Talk the Thrones.
But Aerion did.
Nor did Aerion, is my point. Chris has many good points, but not when he defends Aerion Targaryen. Viserys, we constantly held Viserys' feet to the fire in House of the Dragon for not doing a better job of preventing all the shit that came after his death in terms of making sure that everyone is getting along in a meaningful way, not in a just sort of get along kind of way.
Yeah.
And so for Baelor to try to take a more active role inside of his own family, I think is admirable.
Yeah, you understand what is fueling this line to Egg. He's like, my own brother clearly resents me. Daeron is a fucking coward and liar. Aerion is a monster. So there are these warnings of the crumbling that could await. Anywhere he looks, he can see them.
Right.
On the Viserys front, it's real the opening note of House of the Dragon is the only thing that could tear down the House of the Dragon was itself for a reason. It is because it is very key and very true on the eve of the dance.
Especially when there were dragons involved.
Always true for the Targaryens. Obviously, all of this is extra delicious given the choice Baelor makes at the end of the episode to ride in, side with Dunk. Sure, we have to love our brothers. Doesn't mean that we have to actually agree with them or choose to side with them. Sometimes other things do matter more.
Can I go back and say, when you say something the only thing that could tear down the House of the Dragon was itself, or Robert Baratheon with a warhammer, is that our doctrine of exceptionalism? Is Robert Baratheon with a warhammer?
A little sprinkle of mixed blood there, some Targ Baratheon ties.
Some Targ blood in there, sure. The only thing that could tear down the House of the Dragon was itself, or someone with
hit him with the hammer.
There's the throne.
Just avoid the trident. Just avoid the trident, guys.
I looked for you at the trident.
Baelor dismisses Egg. He's like, I need to talk to Dunk alone. And then, this trial by combat idea gestating. He asks Dunk, how good a knight are you? How skilled at arms? Interesting. Because is that the what makes a knight answer to the question? How good a knight are you? How skilled at arms? Or how good a knight are you? What are you carrying in here? But Dunk's answer is not super compelling on the how skilled at arms front. And we look at Dunk, he's huge. Sir Duncan the Tall. We've not seen a ton of him. And he hasn't had a ton of experience that we have gotten to witness.
We've seen him knock an old man over in his training montage.
Bore down on Arlen with ease in the flashbacks.
And old men.
Destroyed Aerion. Destroyed.
And put up a good fight against 6 or 7 guards.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Took a few people to take him down.
To hold him back. Yeah. So that's encouraging. But when he's basically I tilted at rings. It's not what Baelor was hoping to hear.
Outstomped Lionel in a dancing competition.
He did. He got those toes.
Quick feet.
He got those toes. What chance do I have truly? This is something that Dunk himself has been asking. He asked Lionel this in episode 1. He asked Egg this in episode 2. And that's an important thing. He's not exactly going into this I can definitely win.
Yeah, when he's I tilted at rings, he's Baelor's okay.
Oh no, some great Baelor expressions. No. That was that reaction there is amazing. In the initial, with the lords assembled, the trial scene when it's decided that they will do the trial of 7, and he's just the eyebrows raised, really, so sort of yeah, you can go, this is where we are. From the book, Dunk was strong and quick, and his weight and reach were in his favor, but he did not believe for a moment that his skills were the equal of these others. Sir Arlen had taught him as best he could, but the old man had never been the greatest of knights, even when young. Shit knight, Egg said it.
Wow,
Egg
tough.
said it. Great knights did not live their lives in the hedges nor die by the side of a muddy road. That will not happen to me, Dunk vowed. I will show them that I can be more than a hedge knight. Dunk is very aware of his training, his experience, his circumstance. He knows that he is single
A shit knight
suddenly in the show.
And also not even a knight. So,
What makes a knight a knight, though, Have you thought about that?
I haven't. This is the first I'm hearing of it.
Baelor explains to Dunk what he's facing. Makar. Mika. I miss that guy.
The Herald.
He's the best.
Maybe he'll do some announcing next
episode. That would be great. Get him in the broadcast booth.
Yeah,
to call the trial of 7.
A Howard Cosell moment. Do you feel good about it?
Cosell, but yeah, very, very good. Very good.
Not very good.
It's really good.
You can just say close. Close.
Mika.
How good of a knight are you? I tilt at rings sometimes.
Oh man, great stuff. Makar found his eldest, Daeron the Drunken, drunk at an inn. Rather than being yeah, I did skive off. I cut class. I'm a prince and it's fine. You're not really going to be that mad at me, are you, Dad? Yeah, sure. I know that you were hoping that your sons would best.
He's a big, huge, kind of ginger, huge hedge knight.
Yeah.
Kidnapped.
He stole
Aegon. Days ago.
Stole them.
I've been thinking about doing something about it.
I have been strategizing.
I've been making some plans.
My pursuit. I needed to think. We love Daeron, as we've said. He's a very sympathetic figure to us, as we will talk about more later when we get to his dream.
Sorry if my lie got you killed.
This is rough.
Sorry if my lie got you killed. Bummer.
I do love that when he's just it's possible that I've killed you with my life. So I am sorry. I'm probably going to a hell without wine.
Daeron's a great character. I really think it's one of the best performances,
it's fantastic. Don't you wish we got more?
Yeah, a 2-scene sort of moment.
So good. Even in the most dire of circumstances here, peril all around him, Dunk asks about
Tansel.
Not too tall for him.
Multiple times inside of this episode.
He's gonna ask Steely Pate, stealth MVP of the show.
How many MVPs are you allowed to have in the show?
As many as 7. I'm gonna do an MVP of 7.
All right,
that is my right.
It's Baelor, Steely Pate.
Baelor is the MVP to me for sure. I think Raymun is characters or performances. Those are different things.
Hold my hand.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to have Raymun Fossoway.
I love him.
You can't have him. And you know why.
I can and I will.
No, sorry.
The contradictions in the human heart.
Sorry.
They're the only thing worth writing about and getting tattoos
I rarely
about.
ever deny you anything, but I'm denying you this.
What does Baelor say when Tansel comes up? By the time Aerion is done twisting the tail, it will be high treason. Twisting the tail, like, he knows what Aerion has done. He knows what this is. And then this is where
Dunk gets a little head up, a little spicy,
frosty.
right?
Treason? By puppetry?
By puppetry. Puppet never hurt anyone. I'll say it again.
The dragon is the sigil of the royal house to portray one being slain. It was surely innocent. Perhaps, Baelor says, but far from wise even in peacetime. Aerion calls it a veiled attack on House Targaryen and incitement to revolt. Do you believe that, your grace? One truth is beyond dispute. You laid hands on the blood of the dragon. What do you make of this?
I mean, the way in which Baelor is telling him there are limits to what I can do here inside of these power structures, inside of my power, I need to preserve this idea that you can't lay hands on the blood of the dragon, that like we might be in our flop era. Maybe we don't have dragons, but we still have to say we're blood of the dragon, or else why do we have the right to be kings? We don't.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
I think Baelor is incredibly pragmatic. And I think, you know, and it's a little disappointing because you want him to just say like, stop, send Aerion to his room and, you know, stop this whole thing before it starts. That's what we would love to see from Baelor. But Baelor is more pragmatic than that.
Right.
And so when he does show up at the end and we cry and the Game of Thrones theme kicks in and stuff like that, like this is a huge moment. But also, and I didn't see this in your characterization of the notes later when we get there, but like what I think is true and and many people are saying is that there's a pragmatic angle to it as well, which is like this is PR as well, which is like if it's all of the Targaryens against this guy who defended the small folk.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, of course.
That doesn't look great. So like is Baelor acting inspired by this exchange he's having with Dunk here to like, you know, reach into his heart and do what is true and what is right? Yes. Is he also like, and this is also a better look for us? Yeah. If it's a bit more even-handed inside of this conflict. I mean, you know, both can be true, but just to say that he's like what we're saying about Dunk, it's not that Dunk is like constantly polishing his halo. He is, and then he's also like, you know, thinking about kissing Tansel or whatever the case may be. Kissing.
Definitely kissing. Thinking about kissing. Yeah.
Baelor is the same. Baelor is like there are certain things we have to sort of maintain in order, or else this whole thing falls apart. Because honestly, the monarchy is a joke. Yeah. So in order to keep this fiction afloat, we need to pretend that the blood of the dragon is sacred.
Yeah, and I think that complexity is really delicious, and the fact that like everything we've heard from Arlen, from Dunk, the soul of chivalry, like that is true, and that is very apparent. But like thinking about his family's position, the pressure of that, he's the heir to the Iron Throne. Like it is incumbent on him to take that seriously. He has a responsibility to think about their positioning in the realm. So undeniably, that's in the Breu as well. This is this idea that Chris asked us about on Talk to Thrones was that like, you know, does Aerion have a point question in terms of specifically that incitement to revolt, risk, and fear?
And I refuse to cede ground on this. And I will also say that, like, I think underlying my side of the argument would be that, like, later when Aerion's like, well, Daeron was insulted too, so we can't let that stand. When, like, he knows full well that Daeron's fucking lying, right? So, like, all of this is him just weaving a tapestry of bullshit so that he can do whatever he wants to do. Save face, you know, crush nuts, and also hedge knights under his boot, you know, or the hilt of his dagger.
Yes.
So I cannot.
You will not be co-signing Aerion on any point.
Concede Aerion has any points here.
On the Tansel puppet show front and what people might take from it, you know, I think it was back in the first trailer pod that you flagged, like, because as we've talked about many times in covering the season, the canon timeline difference of like George wrote the novella before all of the Blackfire history existed. So there's way more just the shadow and specter of the recent Blackfire Rebellion looming in the show than there ever could have been in the novella because that history didn't exist
Because George hadn't
yet.
thought of it yet.
And the showrunner, Ira Parker, and the show team, they're able to incorporate that throughout. And so this, like, one need not intend harm to do it element of, like, was that what Tencel and the puppeteers were trying to do? Like, no. Could somebody in the audience have taken encouragement from that? Is it horseshit that Aerion is saying that? Undeniably. Is it possible that puppet show, forget it, this fucking fiasco that is unfolding where they're all making asses of themselves is likely to lead somebody, Steffon Fossoway in short order here is one example to say, like, the Dragon House, where are their dragons? For the crowd, for the rock hurling at Aerion's head, that everything they do, there is, like, the propensity for someone to look around and say, flop
Monarchy
era.
is bullshit. But, like...
I mean, Bittersteel is alive.
I know you're not.
I know
you're not saying that Aerion has some points, but like,
certainly not.
We can't
certainly not
have that attitude towards art. We can't say we have to censor. Like, if someone inside of the, I know you aren't saying this, but if someone inside of the puppetry troupe was like, should we not do the one with the dragon? Should we not do Serwyn when there are Targaryens around?
Right.
Like, if I'm Tencel or whoever is like, I'd be like, no, we're fucking doing
That's
Serwyn
part
of
of
the Mirror
what's so
Shield.
hideous about Aerion as a character.
Aerion's the kind of guy who needs his, like, very own halftime show because he can't handle,
exactly.
like, you know?
Totally.
So it's just like...
See, you track sports.
I know so much. Howard Cosell, did you say?
Oh, man.
But I mean, it's just sort of like that fragility.
Absolutely.
And it's the Targaryen's own brutality or, like, you know, because if you are Jaehaerys the Conciliator, like, you know, if you are the kind of king who's, like, looking out for the people,
right,
your power isn't that brittle, to misquote our guy. Right. So, you know, it's just like...
Yeah, Aerion is like the worst kind of villain where he is a striver who is seeking validation and sees himself as rare, special, righteous, worthy, but is as insecure in that power and would never identify that in himself, would always cast that blame or project elsewhere. It is because my family has let me down. And I mean, they are, look at their hair. When they're not as worthy as me.
When someone in the crowd says Lord Ashford fucks his sheep.
Yeah. Great stuff.
We laugh. We don't break his fingers. You know what I mean? Like,
right. But Aerion probably would have.
He laughed.
If it had been about the Targaryens, though.
Well, then that's bullshit.
Yeah, I agree. I'm Team Aerion is a monster, not Team did Aerion have some points. The girl's finger was snapped in half, Dunk points out. No matter the cause, it is never wise to strike a king's grandson. Would you not have done the same? I might have, but I am a prince of the realm, not a hedge knight. Don't all knights make the same oath to protect the innocent?
What I really love, and we got an email about this, but this language has been tweaked throughout this episode.
Yeah.
Right. So you have this quote here from the book, right? A hedge knight is the truest kind of knight, Dunk, the old man, had told him a long time ago. Other knights serve the lords who keep them or from whom they hold their lands, but we serve where we will for men whose causes we believe in. Every knight swears to protect the weak and innocent, but we keep the vow best, I think. Yeah. Queer how strong that memory seemed, right? So that's like very, very important for what is going on here. But the language that George uses, and he'll use it again later when Baelor shows up in the novella, is protect the weak or defend the weak. Mm-hmm. And Ira and his writers just like, they're like, why call Tencel weak? Why call these people weak? They're innocents, and that's the point. It's not that they're weaker. It's that they are, because like, that's disempowering to a certain, you know, to say like the weak, but the innocent.
Right.
She did nothing wrong. She did a puppet show, right?
Yeah.
Duncan did nothing wrong, really.
Yeah.
He protected someone.
Yeah.
And are they weaker inside of this bullshit power structure? Yes. But like, I like that they just snipped that word out a couple times in this show, and they were just sort of like, what matters is the innocence.
Yes. Yeah.
The power matters less than the innocence.
And ultimately that's a tie to the choice that obviously very present in the choices that Dunk has made, but the choice ultimately that Baelor makes too is like, I'm going to stare into Aerion's soul when I say the guilty, and I'm going to ride out inside with the guy who did the right thing because he is the innocent.
Yeah.
Ultimately. I love that tie across the character set here. we already talked about this, how this like slight tweak in the positioning, this like, I'm not a hedge knight language is something that Baelor kind of offers up as on his own versus the prompting here from Dunk. We spent some time on this on Talk the Thrones, but worth hitting here again, that this really just positions, it's a matter of degree. The exact words of the exchange are very similar, that Dunk is imparting wisdom here to Baelor, that he is providing an example.
Baelor will quote at the end.
Which Baelor will need.
I think it's really important. We've seen Dunk do this throughout, right? So like, he says this to Egg, right? About like, we can't have the princeling be disappointed, right?
Yeah.
But also to Lionel, right at the very beginning, right? That's easy for you to say, you have a name and inheritance. When lost, I won't be able to ransom back my own horse.
Right.
So from the beginning, Dunk has been a mouthpiece for the writers of the show to just sort of push back on the privilege that surrounds him.
Yes.
In a way that Dunk in the book is not really, that's not on his agenda.
And we've been, chatting since before the season, since the preview pods, about this very active positioning for the novellas, but certainly the show. And this is a core thing for George too, but the show is really leaning to like, we're with the small folk. Like we're with, these are the characters and this is the point of view and this is the kind of life that we want to root this story in. And then it's like, but here are all these Targaryens. And something like that, what you just identified, something like this moment from Dunk, it's like, only Dunk, will he inspire other royals to be able to see life that way? Yes, and that's the great gift that Dunk can provide. But he has a history and a lived experience and a perspective and a point of view that is the same as the legions and the masses and is not the same as the kid in the royal doublet or as chivalrous as he is, and that's part of why he's a fabled character in even Dunk's life because of Arlen's mythologizing of Baelor. He shows up, like we talked about earlier in the season, more in the novella than the show, and just more like kind of common garb. It's like, man, are the people with brown hair still the heir to the Iron Throne and the Prince of Dragonstone and the hand of the king? Right. So for Dunk to be able to just like incept a little bit, and then through his lesson really lead,
and also
it had to be Dunk.
This thing that we've brought up a couple times about the ability of the hedge knight to be in these rooms of power. I mean, it's an unusual story for Dunk here. An ordinary hedge knight would not have had these opportunities to be alone with the heir to the Iron Throne as sort of like often as Dunk is here. But like there are very few sort of lower born people who are allowed to permeate the levels of power the way that like a hedge knight can, because a hedge knight acts in this sort of liminal space, right? Of just sort of like, I am of you, but not one of you, sort of thing. And so that puts him in this really interesting position. The other way in which inside the book, and it's good to have him voice these things because a lot of it is like internal monologue for Dunk inside of the book. I'm thinking specifically of like in this moment when Baelor's like, Aerion wants your head. Don't worry, I'm not letting that happen. Yeah.
But I can't deny my trial.
But you could lose a hand or your foot. Like that's
he already asked for some of your teeth.
Them's the rules. So like Dunk spends a lot of his internal monologue from here forward thinking about what his life would be like without a foot. Yeah. And like we see what this cruel world does to someone as rich and clever as Larys with a disability. Yeah. And Dunk has none of that insulation around him. He cannot live by his wits. Right. With love and respect to Dunk, my guy Dunk. Yeah. And he does not have wealth and privilege around him. Right. And so he's like, what would my life be like? Yeah. If I cannot be strong and be tall, right? What else do I have? Yeah. Like my life is over if this happens. And again, that's like, I don't think true in our world as the same way it's true in this world. And also this idea that if you hit a king, you lose a hand, you kick a king, you lose a hand. Made me think about Tyrion, of course, slapping Joffrey and saying, "Now I've struck a king. Did my hand fall for my wrist?" Yeah. You know what I mean? Just sort of like
perfect. Just as the cow pie to the cheek makes us on our mind with Aerion. I mean, think of Jaime with what you just said too, because he of course does have position, privilege, wealth, power, the strength of his family name, all of it. I was that hand. I was that hand. Mm-hmm. If your life is the life of a knight, and especially for Dunk at this point at the beginning, this pivotal
on the
moment,
road, constantly traveling,
I must risk all, and then what? It's over, right? On the Tyrion front, real like I mean, Tyrion and his season 4 trial, obviously on our minds in general because of Oberyn and the legendary "I will be your champion" moment, which we'll talk about more when we get to the trial by combat history in a minute. But Tyrion also on our mind here in the trial because the I know I'll get no justice here declaration, right? So almost like conceding in advance here, the people in that room are not going to side with you. It's not going to happen. It's not. You asked Leo Longthorn to remember who Sir Arlen was and let you enter the list, and he didn't have time to do anything but spit sour leaf juice at your feet. It's not going to happen, right? And so especially, again, this idea of like 7 and the idea of something holy or sacred or just, you know, one of the associations is with justice. It's like, what is justice? If you're looking for justice, you've come to the wrong place. This is a through line across the canon.
If you think this story is a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention.
All-timer. Whether it's a better choice or a worse choice, Baelor says, I cannot say. It's going to be up to Dunk, right? And so I ask you again, Sir Duncan the Tall, how good a knight are you? Truly. And this word is deliberately being deployed time and time again. What chance do I have? Truly. We've heard it from Dunk many times. We hear it from Baelor.
I love that you're flagging that. I think and
myth and legend, but what's real?
As someone who just spent a minute or two talking about like this shot looks like a tarot card, I'm not here to like yuck the yum of your sort of like what does this mean question. I may or may not get to this like incredible email we got about the fart joke, but like
yeah.
But also I wonder, I feel like that's also sometimes just like a rhetorical trick that people use to make something feel oldie-timey.
No question, but it's like
just tack a truly on the end
definitely.
And it'll sound.
But then in this show and in this fictional slice of the world where with this character set, this novella, this season, so much is about, you know, the tales grow in the telling idea, right?
True.
The like role that myth and legend play to potentially waylay you, like the Steffons. Well, I'm just going to go get me my glory, you know, or the way that you can perhaps find inspiration in that. And then can you become that for someone else? Kind of just like a fascinating what's real. And
are there no true knights among you?
Yes.
Like, which is the line,
yes,
I would say, with love and respect to any other ones we highlight of the season, of the novella, et cetera, et cetera. At the end of the day, the truest knight that we see.
It's the line of the novella is not for puppets. I don't think you mean that.
At the end of the day, the truest knight we see is Dunk.
Yes, no question.
And what is truth then? Because if he's not actually a knight, then the truth is...
Should it matter if you were actually knighted or if you live the way that a true knight should?
Yeah.
Great stuff. Dunk does it. He's like, trial by combat, that is my right.
Somebody told me the words trial by combat, and I just thought I'd repeat them here.
It's great. The cut to this scene, the folks who are assembled, so it's Dunk, it's Aerion, it's Baelor, it's Maker, it's Lord Ashford, who is, of course, hosting this tourney, and then Lord Tyrell, Leo Longthorn, who is the Lord of the Reach, Ashford's Lord, sour leaf guy. Daeron not in the scene in the show, which I think was a fine and good choice because it gives him a better
entrance later. But yeah, he's here in the book and I think he says like one thing.
Yeah, he's like walnut crushing. This is such a great touch. We've talked a lot across the season about shorthand. What does it tell us that Dunk is kind to animals, for example? Aerion, in the most important moment of another person's life, just sitting there using his dagger hilt, a weapon of death and violence, to facilitate his snack.
Probably like Dunk could live for the rest of his life on how much that dagger costs.
No question.
And he's using it as a nutcracker.
No question. This snobby little rich kid needs his snack. That's what Sarah Dina Smith said.
And then like sending Lord Ashford under the table for the
unbelievable
for the nuts. Just really good stuff.
Thailand. No time for amusement, Thailand. You still thinking of Brandon Rickon?
Always.
Walnut Association
Star
always?
Boys, always.
Dunk takes a breath. He says this thing, and we get this incredible like just reaction shot of everybody, and then the little nod of encouragement from Baelor. So on the shorthand front, hearing this, trial by combat, that is my right. This is just like one of the big Thrones beats. This is the good shit for Thrones fans. It's fun. A lot of the things that happen, just trial by combat in general, what Baelor does to just remind ourselves that this was 1998 that George wrote this. He wrote this novella between the first and second novels. So it's like, in many ways, like this is like, obviously we get some trial by combat of consequence and note in the first novel, A Game of Thrones. This is like early, like Baelor in the canon. Oberyn's doing a Baelor impression technically, not the other way around. Right. Fun to think about. But of course, in the TV world, we're receiving this after years and years and years of seeing trial by combat play out on screen.
And unlike many, he's not asking for a champion. He's just asking for the chance to fight for his life.
Ready to do it himself. Ready to do it himself. Jaime to Ned in season 1. Later, when I watched the Mad King die, I remembered him laughing as your father burned. It felt like justice. Nodding to, of course, Rickard Stark versus Aerys' champion, Fire.
Some kings need slaying.
Chill guy. Chill. You don't have to love all your brothers. Great stuff. Tyrion, of course, at the Eyrie in season 1. Bronn versus Ser Vardis. Lysa, got some milking in and then had time to say, "You don't fight with honor." And Bronn's like, "You did." How'd that go for him?
Out the
moon door. Beric and the Hound in season 3. Thoros saying, "Show us the truth. Strike this man down if he is guilty. Give strength to his sword if he is true." Obviously, most famously of all, the Mountain versus the Viper in season 4. I will be your champion. A lot of great stuff in Feast for Crows text where Cersei is preparing and writes to Jaime. And I love the idea. I've always loved the idea that both Jaime's siblings at some point wanted and needed him to be a champion, and that is not what happened in either case for different reasons. And then, of course, in season 6 of Thrones, Tommen and the High Sparrow banning trial by combat specifically to fuck Cersei. Yeah, it's like, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do the Seven Septons, and that went fine for everyone. It went fine.
Absolutely great.
It went fine.
No problem.
This is just great. I never tire of this. Maybe a point will come when we do, but it hasn't happened yet.
Well, especially not here because we're reading Trial by 7, which is...
Yeah, Arion's like, I'm going to up the ante.
Yeah, it's different.
Great stuff. So what does this tell us about Aerion as a character?
That he had no good points and that he's a chicken shit. I mean, he cannot go up against Duncan. Even if Duncan has only been tilting at rings...
Just kicked his ass.
He will be the shit out of Aerion, right? Yeah. So he can't do this. And so he's like, Trial by 7. As I read... From my hero Magar, the Cruel.
Loves that guy.
He's like, Magar had some great points. And one of them was Trial by 7. And this, like quick on his feet, thinking like
definitely
the Daeron cover and all this sort of stuff like that. And also making it a question of honor for the Targaryen families.
I love even Magar's like, that's fucking nonsense.
But it's all bullshit. And it's all just like so clear because the best outcome for Aerion is Duncan can't get 6 other people to fight with him.
Right. 6, I might as well be 6,000.
Right. And it's highly likely because no one would even like vouch for him to be a knight in the first place. Except he made some friends and influenced some people in the last few days. So,
He did. Aerion is a little behind on the nighttime party drinking and also daytime song and tug of war scene. A little behind.
I was thinking about this. We talked about Robin Risling and the scene with Egg because Egg gets Lionel Baratheon and Robin Risling to come fight, right?
Yeah, and Raymun got the Humphreys, yeah.
And so the scene with Robin Risling is great because like Egg's like, I know the Mad Knight will get him, great. Yeah. But also like the tug of war scene was important because Egg knows who Lionel Baratheon is. Like he wasn't in the party tent, so it's like we saw Egg directly interact with both of the champions that he went and found, and he could like show up. Lionel Baratheon stinking drunk or asleep, and he's just like, remember when I won that tug of war for you, sir?
Let me tell you, your rendition of Alice with 3 Fingers got me thinking.
Would you like to hear my dissertation?
Took me to a hits bong on space, ma'am.
Would you rather bloody up some Kingsguard?
Left an impression. I kind of like because Maekar has been such a comedically successfully deployed character. He in the novella is doing a lot of the like, come on, man, like don't play the fool stuff with Dunk for not knowing this. But he in the show is the one who's like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah,
great stuff. If it was the Andals.
Oh, the Andals.
This is incredible. So, the Trial of 7, ancient, seldom invoked, brought across the narrow sea by the Andals. Jorah the Andal. Talk about a Thrones tick. Whenever I hear Andal, I have to destroy the Andal. I always hear it in my head. Along with the Rhoynar and the First Men, of course. The Andals brought knighthood and the faith of the Seven, both. And so when we think about these associations between those two things, all very much in the mix here. Also, they cut down all the werewolves and went to war with the Children of the Forest and killed a ton of them. So that was tough.
The Andals are not morally superior to the Targaryens as much as they'd like to think so.
Turns out that almost everyone in Song of Ice and Fire, the Land of Ice and Fire, is firmly in the we have some notes bucket.
Except for the Children of the Forest. All they did was shove a piece of dragon glass very slowly into a man's chest. Don't worry about it.
It went fine.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I think on the Aerion front, I love all that. I think it is interesting to show us that he is also a student of history. Like, it's like giving me kind of, in a much more nefarious and sinister way, a little bit of a like Connor Roy, like, well, in my readings, energy. Has Aerion tracked down any withered genitalia from prior
is he known
conquerors he worships? I'm just
aerating his wine by putting it in the blender first? Maybe.
Would it surprise you?
Maybe.
Would it surprise you? Look at how he opened a walnut. Anything is possible. Last trial of 7. You mentioned Maekar. So this was 42 AC. It is now 209 AC. That is how long it has been since a trial of 7 was either happened or at least was recorded in history. And they're such monumental events that it is not reasonable to assume that something would have happened that was not recorded in history. Why has it been so long? Because the last time it happened, the faith was like, Maekar, your claim, we've got some notes. We're going to challenge you. Every single person involved died except for Maekar, who was basically a vegetable for weeks. These are costly battles.
We had several listeners ask, like, what are the rules of the trial by 7? And here's the rules. The fight only ends when all 7 men on one side are defeated, killed, or someone yields. Like the main sort of like...
The accuser or the accused. Yeah.
Aerion or Dunk would have to yield.
Yes.
So either everyone fighting on Dunk's side is dead, or everyone's fighting on Aerion's side is dead, or... they're like very clearly beaten, or Aerion or Dunk yields. Yeah. Is how this ends. And that's what Raymun's like, this is no fucking joke.
Lances of war.
Yeah.
Steffon's like, well, it's a knightly contest. You're not a knight. You're not going to have to worry about it.
I like soft grapes and nice food.
Fucking Steffon calling Raymun the reluctant in the novella. And then Raymun gets to talk his shit. I love Raymun.
It's great. You don't get to have him.
Yes, I do. God damn it. Nope. So this power move from Aerion that is, I agree, definitely born out of a position of fear, right? There's the like, okay, well, maybe he won't be able to find the men and then it won't happen. But also, if it does happen, I'm going to be able to surround myself with princes, the Kingsguard.
There's also a question of like, because Daeron has to fight now, right? Because he's like, it's not just my honor, it's Daeron's honor, right? So Daeron has to fight.
Yeah.
Maekar has to fight.
Mm-hmm. Well, sure. Yeah.
Like I've seen many people are asking, is Aerion hoping that like his brother dies or his dad dies or something like that, and that all just like pushes him a little closer to the throne?
I mean, maybe it's entirely possible.
He's just like added bonus.
Yeah, he doesn't care what happens to anyone. I do think that the established relationship with his dad is like one of reverence, but born of fear. And even we see the way that Maekar like pulls him out and is like calling him an idiot and like
Daeron said he was like foot whipped, which is a hideous form of torture that is like banned by the Geneva Convention.
Yeah.
Like
and like Raymun, we learned from him in a prior episode that he's like, he wouldn't have done that. Like he wouldn't have done the thing that he had done to Humphrey Harding if his father
I just think Aerion, like,
so they're terrified of him.
No on question. The one hand, yes, but on the other hand, I think Aerion's like, anything that gets me close to the throne is an added bonus to me, you know?
Well, and then there's also the like, so there's the I'm afraid part. There's the let me get people out of my way part.
Happy to see Valar dead. That's for sure.
Clearly. Yeah, for sure.
Uncle Baelor, who hates him.
Well, this is all, I mean, all of that feels into just the larger way that Aerion thinks about legacy and legend, right? All of this potentially can just boost his stock and his standing as a figure of consequence. And if he can do it while shielding himself with swords that he doesn't think Dunk can match, it's an interesting tactic.
I'm going to talk about this strategy. I'm going to talk about this again a little later, but like, I think this idea that, okay, to be part of a trial by some, which hasn't happened in 160 years, incredible. Lionel's like, sign me up. Let's do it, baby. This is sick. Awesome. when Baelor shows up and then all of a sudden it's like Targaryen versus Targaryen and all of a sudden the heir to the Iron Throne, the Hand of the King is fighting. This is like, now everyone knows their front row to history in this moment at Ashford Meadow. That is what we are watching here.
You know who's thrilled? Lord Ashford. But like you said,
how can I turn this into a payday?
Failed to monetize the event.
Yeah.
You hate to fail to monetize. I love in the text when, in response to the explanation that the Andals believed, which we get in the show too, if 7 champions fought, the gods, being thus honored, would be more like to intervene and see the guilty party punished. This sheen put on it. Leo Tyrell in the book chimes in. He's like, or mayhaps they simply had a taste for swordplay. And I've always loved, I kind of wish we had gotten that in the show, but I always love that line because it's like, yeah, this is a fucking bloodbath.
Yeah.
This is like base violence wrapped up in something holy. Let's see. Anything else we haven't hit in this scene before we move to the next? Just the way that Aerion deploys honor, as like a farcical idea.
Yeah.
The gall to do that in front of Dunk. All right. The Fossoways. Dunk goes back to his elm. He's in the rain. He talks to the horses. Oh, lads. And Raymun pops out, asks if he wants some food, and we cut to some pretty disgusting mealtime with Steffon.
Do you have misophonia? Do you think in any way?
Definitely. No question. Yeah.
But you chew gum?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother you when I chew gum around you?
I don't recall ever thinking you chewed gum loudly.
Great.
No. The way that Steffon was noshing on that hunk of meat, though. Boy. All knights vow to protect the innocent. Steffon says. Even hedge knights, I assume? He can't help himself.
Says, I assume. I am for you.
The accent is thick on Steffon Fossoway. I am for you.
I am for you.
Even this piece of shit who could not be more of a dick to Raymun here, to Raymun always, to Dunk, to everyone he's interacted with, just like for a beat, says something that is positioned as
but it's theater.
Good. But it's all horseshit. And that makes it all the more, of course, powerful to reinforce that Dunk is the rare knight who actually believes this, who isn't using these things as either paper shields or pathways to
glory,
achievement.
I have to say, from my very anecdotal evidence of people's response to this, most people were snookered by Stephen Fossoway here, Sir Stevron.
Stevron killed me.
Sorry, I said Stephen. Steffon Fossoway.
Yeah,
the way that he puts this theater on, really got the people at home thinking, okay, this guy sucks, but he cares when a puppeteer gets her finger snapped. He's on the side of right. And then it's like,
nope.
What?
He's on his own side only.
The shitbag with the gaudy rose gold armor is a bad dude?
It looks great. It does look great.
Yeah, because you love Steffon Fossoway.
I do not. Team Red Apple, but not Team
Red
Steffon.
Apple.
Not Team Steffon. No. We contain multitudes, all of us. This is the Dragon House exchange when Dunk is like, are you sure you want to side with me? You don't have to. The Dragon House is not going to be pleased, if anybody opposes them, right? And Steffon says, Dragon House? Where are their dragons, Sir Duncan? And then he talks about the Fossoway House's own history. We were here long before these others come to our shores, and I'll warrant we'll be here long after they are gone.
So we talked about this last week.
Yes.
This idea that the Fossoways used to be lords and they lost their lordship, right? That they were they're old house. That they used to be so rich and powerful that the Tyrells married them for their money, right? And so that they are disgraced. I think we got an email from someone, or I saw a comment somewhere where someone's like, well, it's because it's show confirmed that they were on the wrong side of the Blackfire Rebellion. But I don't think you get the way that they've changed. I talked about the regional accents on Talk of the Thrones of these two actors that they picked for this role, but also they've changed. We'll get to it sort of when Raymun and Steffon have their exchange later on the tourney ground, but they've changed the nature of their language. It's rougher. It's lower class than it is in the novella. You don't get that within 20, less than 20 years. I think they lost their lordship long before that. And there's, we I mentioned on Talk the Thrones, or maybe last week, like we might see the Fossoways in House of the Dragon. Like they might show up.
I would expect
maybe.
to.
I mean, I don't know. Like if they have time for it, they might do some Fossoway stuff in that. If they
some stuff that they are a part of will definitely happen. Whether they will be
like whether
named,
or not we have time for to give Humphrey Beesbury a line or the Fossoways any airtime, I don't know. But like. They've been on the wrong side of conflicts before, you know what I mean? So I don't think it's Blackfire Rebellion related. But anyway, they've lost, they are disgraced. And so the fact that like Steffon Fossoways is like, I want a lordship out of this, right? I'm turning coat here so that I can get a lordship from Aerion, who doesn't have the ability to grant lordship, by the way, is this whole like, we used to be somebody.
Mm-hmm. To thee who has the power to grant it, it would never occur to him that there would be a Targaryen on the other side of this. It is simply a like calculus of the royal house versus this hedge knight.
Sure.
It's about to get more complicated. But we've been tracking the no dragons thing the whole time, but the like seeking lordship, seeking favor, like none of that is being calculated in your own ambition. None of that is the same as being afraid. You know, it's just what he does. He does not have points. Nor does Aerion. But it's a fascinating insight into the state of play. Singers, to make them immortal, he says. The answer is always more glory. This is how he's boasting, that he'll easily be able to go wake other people and find them and get them to decide to do the same thing. Because his ambition, his self-interest is just so naked, and he assumes this is what drives all people. What do you make of the way that you asked the question on Talk the Thrones about, because we were noting the... in talking about Steffon's armor, I recalled the Steely Pate line to Dunk about like, I don't do that. I don't do the fancy armor and the foreign fruits, like good plain steel, much like Dunk. And so we have with their armor, but also what the armor represents about them, Steffon and Dunk as contrasts. And you observed like, how do we reconcile something like Lionel's fancy armor, right? There's kind of an interesting version of this here too, with the tales grow and the telling aspect of this, because like glory drives Steffon in a way that is bad and wrong and something that we are meant to judge. But glory drives Lionel Baratheon. You know, he's talking about the Storm Lords of old and what they had done and what he wants to do. He says in the novella and the show, this hasn't happened in 100 years. Like, I'm not going to miss it.
I love Lionel Baratheon. I think Dunk is lucky that he's on his side.
Mm-hmm.
I think Dunk is lucky that the Baratheons don't really like the Targaryens that much.
Complex stuff.
It's very complex.
State of play.
A very, very, very messy family tree there and stuff like that. But like, I think it's very lucky that Lionel Baratheon has some like chips on his shoulder about the Targaryens, because I think it quite easily have gone the other way with Lionel. It's like him walking away from the tug of war. Like I wouldn't put, he doesn't betray Dunk the way that Steffon does here, but like, just because Lionel showed up for him doesn't mean I think Lionel has like a strong moral code here, you know?
There's like we'll talk about all of the knights who are on Dunk's side and why they're there. And we will lament that we didn't get more time with some of them. There's a reason that Lionel, if there was only going to be one, like had to be the one, and we better understood his choice. And a number of things that the show benefits from moving up his introduction and expanding his role. Steffon's like, not just I got all these fancy friends, but he's like, you're not going to die on my watch, I promise. A throne's promise, never good. Never works out, never good. And Raymun in the novella is just like, these guys that he just listed, like, I'm sure he knows them, but they don't know him. You should find your own champions.
Raymun, like, throughout this conversation is like, what the fuck? This is not very Steffon worthy. Like, this is not, he's like, you should also leave. You should think about running away.
Yeah, that's an interesting moment, because Dunk's like, well, won't they kill me? And then Raymon's like, well, won't they kill you anyway? Like,
which Dunk turns back on him in a second.
Yeah. In the text on that idea of running, Dunk thinks to himself, he wondered if they expected him to saddle a horse and flee. He could if he wished. That would be the end of his knighthood, to be sure. He would be no more than an outlaw henceforth until the day some lord took him and struck off his head. Better to die a knight than live like that, he told himself stubbornly. So the choice he makes here, like so many other things for Dunk, it's all entwined and connected to the way that he thinks about all of this. Like, why is he here in the first place? I'm going to show them that I'm more than an outlaw, that I'm more than a robber, that there can be majesty and worth in the life of a hedge knight. So of course he was never going to run. He's Dunk. He's Sir Dunk the Tall.
Plus he's, like his father, not very inconspicuous. Where are you going to hide?
Tall guy.
Tall guy.
Can't just shave his head like Egg and then escape notice.
Even more noticeable, I would say.
This is where he says the thing about not knowing my place. Maybe the gods figured this is what I deserve, he says. And Raymun says, for doing what you were supposed to, for not knowing my place. So does this feel just connected to you to the larger question of...
A monstrous lie?
The monstrous lie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in general, just the idea of maybe trying to move beyond his station, which we love. We love to see it. Daeron's here. Egg enters the tent. He pops in. Dunk's like, Egg! And it's very sweet. Egg's like, I'm your squire. Someone's got to arm you, and I don't care that my family's on the other side. I'm your guy. It's very sweet. It's very wonderful. Then the mood shifts because Daeron comes in, and Dunk is just like, I'm going to pin you to a table with the dagger at your throat. They can't kill me twice.
This is something that, like, I thought was really interesting that this idea that, like, Daeron seems so unbothered by this. Dunk just like pins him down and Daeron's like, sure, whatever.
Yeah.
But he's petrified of his dreams.
Yeah. Well, and he says in the end of this conversation, like, I don't want to die. You know, I don't want to die. And I mean, who knows what other dreams he's having that he hasn't shared that give him some sense of the future and his role in it. Yeah. So it's dreamers. Always interesting.
The when and the how.
We'll learn eventually that is really why he's here, to talk to Dunk about the dream. But first, they have to basically talk through what they've learned about the other side. Maekar will be fighting. Daeron is going to be there. He assures Dunk, just going to ride out once, one gallant charge, then give me a little knock on the side of the head. I'll just stay there in the mud.
Here's a line that they cut that we really love, right? My brothers have my measure when it comes to fighting and dancing and thinking and reading books, but none of them is half my equal at lying insensible in the mud.
Great shit.
Daeron rules.
It's great. It's great shit.
I would have loved to have heard that line.
I know. That is a good one. I missed
that one. And the
Kingsguard,
only the three that are here.
Only the three that are here absolutely killed me.
So funny.
Only the three that are here. Oh my God. Very funny. Daeron is a comedic genius. And who are those three? Sir Donald of Duskendale, Sir Roland Craycall, Hot Roland as we like to call him here, and Sir Willem Wild, who was in the background of One Shot. So two of these guys, Donald and Roland, Dunk had a moment with, right? He shared an experience with them, a little bit of bonding, and all of whom, the three who are here, and just in general, the Kingsguard, as we talked about when we spent some time with them in episode 2, Dunk worships. So yes, there's the wallop, there's the gut punch of hearing, oh fuck, like I'm gonna have to face the most capable knights and warriors in the realm. But much more than that, it's like, these are my heroes.
I know.
They're supposed to be the embodiment of knighthood. How does that ideal
And they're
match?
on the other side of
and I believe I have done the knightly thing.
Yeah.
So this conflict that we're always talking about, how George loves to explore, what's the ideal and what's real and what happens when the characters have to stare that in the face? Like, what could Dunk has, it's time and time again, all these characters who are reminding Dunk of these things. This is a subtler one, but it is one of those moments too. Like, if they're fighting against me for the thing that I have done that I know it's right, it connects to that Arlen passage that you read. The truest kind of knight. He can be. The Kingsguard have to do what they're told, whether they think it's right or not.
And this is why, not just because of the great Lionel line about like bloodying up their pretty white dresses, but like that shining, pure white example of what a knight is. And then the grubby Dunk, and the fact that Dunk is like is the pure of heart one.
I love Dunk. And Sir Roland.
Hot take.
Super hot. Yeah. Hot take. I love Dunk. He's great. They ask you, Dunk, who do you have? All right, we just ran you through the roster on the other side. What do you got cooking? He's like, let me tell you about Sir Steffon.
Have you heard of him?
Incredible moment where we just get to linger on Egg and Daeron's faces for a second.
And they're like,
Great stuff. So Egg is like, I love sports. You saw me at the joust. It's signing day, baby. I've got you. Let me go recruit. Champions never sleep.
I'm in the
That's
black.
a Nick Saban line.
Obviously. A person I definitely know who he is. Egg's out there and he's got his black and red garb and he's like, I'm a princeling. Let's see what I can do.
And this is where Dunk is like, I am going to be going against your family. Do you really not care?
We don't get to see this in the show and we don't get to see it in the book either because it's this great like moment of surprise that Egg like went out and got these guys. But like, I would have loved to have seen the egg pitch.
Me too. Perhaps in a webisode presented by the Egg and Thunder show.
Okay.
We broke the point of view rule once. Why not again?
Take us into Egg waking Lionel up from the like piss-soaked, beer-soaked, drunken stupor that he's like found himself in the bottom of his tent, I know. In the
novella, we get that line that's like, and my boy like spilled a flagon of wine over my head. It's like, I think that in the show land, Egg walked in on something different. Egg walked in on something different. And it left a mark in more ways than one.
He's learning lots of lessons. Lots of lessons to be had.
Egg's like, my father's going to be protected. The Kingsguard are there. Daeron just told you that he'd flop. Aerion, thanks for asking.
You can kill him.
You can kill him. He put my cat in a well.
He threw my cat down a well, even though he said he didn't.
Egg, cat guy, you love to know it.
Yeah.
You love to know
and
it.
And Daeron's like, okay, yeah, he sucks.
Used to say that he would cut my dick off and then
he could marry me.
Marry me.
Raymun's like, hilarious.
Raymun is just laughing up the storm. Thinks it's a great, appropriate time to laugh. This is an iconic Daeron line. His Egg says he thinks he's a dragon in human form. That's why he's so wroth in the puppet show. And Daeron says, a pity he wasn't born a Fossoway. Then he'd think himself an apple, and we'd all be a teal saint.
Do you think that earlier Sir Stevron accused Raymun of having milk in his veins, like sort of milky veins of an apple? Was that another apple pun?
It's entirely possible.
Okay.
I don't think they're capable of having a conversation without apple puns every couple of sentences, so I'd say it's more likely than not. Daeron asks Dunk for a private word. Tells him he dreamed of him. Dunk's like, I know you told me that when I saw you at the inn. And Daeron's like, I don't remember that. I've been in my cups. But then he shares more details. My dreams are not like yours, he says. Mine come true. An impressive talent for an unimpressive man. Another one of life's little ironies. Real Tyrion, life is full of these little ironies. Carlos, let's hear what else Daeron says here.
But I have seen you, sir. And a fire. And a dead dragon. A great beast. With wings so large they could cover this meadow. It had fallen on top of you. But you were alive. And the dragon was dead.
Did I kill it? Dunk asks. That I could not say. So this is like the spine-tingling good shit.
This is what I'm talking about. This is the
best.
What the hell does this riddle prophecy mean sort of shit that I love from George R. R. Martin.
Yes. We will obviously talk about this more in the spoiler section later. But here, it's another example of, okay, well, like, what does a character do when they say this thing? What does a character do when they hear this thing? What sort of mark does it leave on Dunk, on Daeron, on anyone else who hears this eventually? But in general, Daeron the Drunken, Daeron the Dreamer, the burden of these dreams, the crushing weight of these things that he has seen, he's not the only one in Targaryen history.
No, I mean, like,
to be so afflicted.
So, like, Daenerys the Dreamer, who we brought up much to Chris's confusion on Talk of the Throne.
Great moment.
Right. That she is like, this is the inciting incident for the Targaryens leaving to come over to Westeros is her dream.
Right. And you'd
about
be
the doom of
inclined,
old Valyria.
You'd be inclined to put stock in prophetic dreams anyway, but if a dream saved your family, if you were the only dragon riding house that made it out of the doom because of a dream, you'd be believing your own hype a little bit with this stuff.
I am no ordinary woman. My dreams come true. Like, this is a Daenerys line. We've got Maester Aemon. We've got Rhaegar. Like, all of this stuff is really important. But I would say of all the dreamers, we talk about Viserys.
Yes.
To Alicent in season 1. We talked about this, right? Yes. What is the power of a dragon against the power of prophecy? But I think Helena is the character that we should really look at when we think about, like, who has been broken by prophecy.
Yeah.
Helena and her, like, sort of babbled riddles and just sort of the way in which she's completely been addled by this. You know, when we see her room in House of the Dragon and there's just sort of these drawings everywhere of just sort of, she's just plagued by these dreams. And that's like a bit of a show invention for House of the Dragon, but it's a really, really good precursor to what is going on with Daeron here. That you can't have all of this information in your head and not be broken by it in some way. Yeah.
I love to, like, track the parallels and similarities across the Targs and also the differences, like who experiences these prophetic dreams. And, like, Aegon the Conqueror says, Song of Ice and Fire. Like, every ruler in our family from here is going to heed the import of these words.
I'm going to etch it on a dagger.
It's going to be right there. You're just going to have to hold it over some flames.
Fine. Don't worry about it.
Again, the professor is always welcome. And who is going to crumble under the weight? And also, whose relationship inside of the Targaryen family to the idea of dragon dreams is going to morph over time? Like you mentioned Viserys and his complex relationship to these dreams, his aspiration, his desire. Like, I so badly wanted it to be true, to be a dreamer myself, right? Miscalculating, misinterpreting. You have something like Daemon looking at his brother in derision. Dreams didn't make us kings. Dragons did. But then our guy Daemon gets around those werewood roots in season 2 and is like, I have a new relationship to this now.
I've been to Burning Man.
Yeah.
Their drugs are different.
Oh my God. So good. I mentioned on Talk to Thrones that one of the things that Daeron says in this stretch of the book when he's talking about the Kingsguard, how they had no choice. They're sworn to protect the lives of the king and the royal family. And my brothers and I are blood of the dragon. Gods help us. That gods help us I've just always loved. But I think one of the best lines is A Storm of Swords. Alistair Florent, shout out Selyse. That's her uncle. I can't believe I've mentioned Selyse 2 out of the last 3 weeks. Yep. Insane, frankly. To Davos in A Storm of Swords says, no good has ever come of dreams of dragons. No good has ever come of dreams of dragons. So there's some more stuff we'll talk about later.
Things go completely fine with Selyse. It's going to be fine.
She does great. She does great. Dunk leaves this exchange with Daeron, and, you know, like you, he's always thinking of puppets, and so he makes his way.
It's puppet time, baby.
To the tent. This is great.
Okay, first of all, what a thrill to be right.
I'll never forget the feeling on the trailer pod when I was like, whose head is that? And you're like, I think I know, but I'm not going to tell you until the pod.
Yeah. And
then the way that you broke out, I'm always thinking of puppets. I'll just never forget it. And neither will Dunk.
Growing up, I lived like 2 blocks from the library, and right in Old Mill Park there was the Mill Valley Fall Arts Festival. There was a puppet show there every year, and I was just like obsessed with this puppet show. It was like just like a really, really good puppet show that I would like go to every year. Yeah.
Love. There was something in Baltimore called Pumpkin Theater, if I'm remembering correctly. And it was like theater for young little pumpkins, young kiddos. And perhaps pumpkins were also involved in the production. I can't remember. But my grandma would take me to Pumpkin Theater. I think that's what it was called. And puppets were, in my memory, perhaps apocryphal, but I think often involved. The point is, very special.
Puppets rule. And so I do want to talk about this for a second, right?
Yes, please.
We hear the "You are no knight, you are Florian the Fool," that line, right? Spooky from beyond the grave. Well, she's not dead, so not from beyond the grave. I will say she's one of our only female characters who ever talks, so it's the only way we get a cut to Red and we get a cut to Gwyn. But not a lot of women are talking in this episode of television.
Let's just say it. Even with the horses. Couldn't have said "oh lads" if Sweetfoot had still been there.
So we have a woman talking about a man from a previous episode in this episode. But anyway, I said this on Industry, and it's true here too. Everyone has a hard-on for Hamlet. So, like, we get this moment where Dunk is holding the Florian the Fool head, which is, like, very Hamlet.
Oh, yeah.
Gravedigger scene. Alas, poor Yorick, I knew him, Horatio. And I think, alas, poor Yorick, I knew him, Horatio, a fellow of infinite jest, of most excellent fancy. He hath borne me on his back 1,000 times. And now, how abhorred in my imagination it is, my gorge rims at it. Here hung those lips that I have kissed, I know not how oft. Where be your jibes now, your gambols, your songs, your flashes of merriment? There were wont to set the table on a roar. Not one now to mock your own grinning, quite chap fallen. So, like, I think that moment of, like, thinking about your own mortality as you stare at the skull of something, which is what Hamlet is doing here. But, like, very specifically this idea of the fool, the head of a fool, right? Yorick was the court jester. And so thinking about how alive Yorick was, how, like, David Foster Wallace, like, infinite jest, you say? I'll write that down. But, like, how alive, how full of laughter and spirit and just, like, more brimming with life than most people ever met. And now it's just a grinning skull that he's holding. And this is, food for worms. That's where we're all headed, right? And so this idea of, like, Dunk on the verge of this very scary thing he has to do, where he can't think of a way forward where he doesn't surely die. Right. Regarding his own mortality, and then regarding this head of this fool, but also this, am I the fool, right? Sure. Is every knight a fool? Am I the fool sort of thing?
Right.
We talked about this last week, this idea of, like, just the very idea of being a knight is to be foolish, and I think I forgot to say, but meant to say Don Quixote, because, like, that is the epitome of, like, the foolish idea of knighthood, tilting at windmills, like, to fancy yourself chivalric in this cruel world is a foolish endeavor in the history of literature, of global literature. Yes. And so, like, Don Quixote and his squire, Sancho Panza, on donkeys, which Dunk invokes earlier in this episode. But just sort of, like, that idea of, like, was I a fool to even get involved in this? Am I a fool to think that there is justice in this world or there are ideals in this world? And do I have to do all of this while facing the idea of my own mortality at this young age of 30-something? But in the book, it's a teenager, 17, you know? So, like,
I learned that there's no justice in the world, not unless you make it.
It's very true. It's very true. But, like, what I think is interesting is we've been constantly thinking about our babe, Brienne of Tarth, right?
Yeah.
She was worried about this too, right? Yeah. She has this line in A Clash of Kings, the fool he promised me is like to be my own reflection in a pond. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, Brienne was not immune from this worry of, like, am I a fool inside of all of this? And then also, like, what will the history books remember of us? Right. There is this great line in A Clash of Kings when she's talking to Catelyn about, this is tales grow in the telling.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
Winter will never come for the likes of us. Should we die in battle, they will surely sing of us. And it's always summer in the songs. In the songs, all knights are gallant, all maids are beautiful, and the sun is always shining. This idea of just sort of, like, they won't tell the truth of us. They won't say who I, Brienne, am. By her own definition, ugly woman, or not really actually a knight, but a knight. And what stories being woven around Dunk inside of this very moment we find him in history. He has found himself at the center of a historic trial by 7 featuring several members of the royal household and a couple of Fossoways, not to mention a Beesbury.
Just a while come up for the Fossoways here. Truly.
And, like,
not to don't worry, no one will be mentioning the Beesburys.
What Alice with Three Fingers-esque song are they going to make about this one?
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. I that's gorgeous. I love all of that. A donkey will be entering the chat at some point in the future, just on the donkey front. So that's exciting to look forward to. We won't spoil the specifics.
Something to think about.
When you're reading that Brienne passage, like the glamour and the sheen, it makes me think of, in season 1, Robert, wanting to share war stories and talk with Jaime, talk with Barristan, but, like, they never tell you how they shit themselves. Like, they don't put that in the songs.
Ira Parker's like, I put it in the show.
Ira's like, I'm going to put it in every episode. We're going to have diary on the first. And episode 2 is going to open with the piss. And then in episode 3, a horse is going to take a very prominent shit. And then episode 4, in the most moving and meaningful stretch, the Brood of Bracken is going to let one rip.
A real juicy one.
We are going to remember. I know. I feel like he probably had to, like, change after that. Swap some small clothes. The Brood of Bracken, he probably doesn't care. He's the Brood of Bracken.
All right, so here's one of your several MVP Steely Pate. Here he is.
I fucking love him.
This is a great scene.
He would have thoughts on all of this. He would be like, I'm about to tell you about the beautiful summer leaves, you know? Let me tell you, like, okay, what makes a night a night? What makes a fool a fool?
The trees are green. Don't worry about it.
He's the best. I just love this guy. I would watch a Steely Pate spinoff and I would do it happily. I really would. Pulls Dunk out of this puppet haze. We get this. That's the cut you mentioned earlier from the Tanzel screams to the crunch.
It's interesting. So, like, it's exactly as he's described in the book, but when he shows up in his, like, And is basically like his Macintosh with his rain slicker with the lantern.
Yeah.
Very evocative of the Seven.
Mhm.
Like this is a very godly sort of look for him.
Yeah.
Also makes me think of Percy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That. Another legend. Dunk again, this is where he asks after Tansel, and Steely Pate says she and her uncle left for Dorne. Shows Dunk the shield, pulls it down, and explains, before we get to the response that Dunk has to seeing the sigil, to seeing his device, he explains that he has reinforced the shield. A little bit of the Sir Arlen. Rim twice as thick.
It's heavier, but it's stronger.
Heavier, but it's stronger.
I love that so much. It made me think about like the truth that Duncan is carrying about the world now. Like, isn't his life so much heavier than it was just like a week ago? But isn't he stronger for it?
Yeah, love that. Dunk looks at the painting. He looks at the sigil, and it should be this.
And it's beautiful, we should say.
It's gorgeous. Looks
Great
gorgeous.
work from
Tansel
Tansel.
crushed it, honestly. She was right
in
to
terms of like graphic
it's
design is her passion.
amazing.
She took the prompt and executed it completely. And he is like the classic sending notes back, being like, looks like death, actually. And she's like, I gave you exactly what you asked for. Precisely. He's like, great, I have some notes. Can we change everything?
Oh my God.
She's like, no, I fucked up the door. Bye.
She's like, sorry, I'm not around. First draft is the only draft. He's going through it though. This should be this great, not only like a moment of like joy, but a declaration of an arrival, right? Okay, it was born out of necessity, like so many things are for Dunk. You must, needs a sigil of your own, as Baelor told him, a device of your own in episode 2. But instead here it is a lament. It's another lament because he looks at this and he's forlorn. The star is fallen and the sunset heralds night. The shield is all painted up like death. And so all of these things, with the Baelor guiding him to needing to do this, Arlen and the sunset, Egg and the idea of the elm, Tansel painting it, all of those things that we talked about, these different strands of the people who have influenced his life, all being present here.
The naming.
Instead of it being something to celebrate, it's something to worry over. It's one more thing that has been warped for Dunk in this moment. And Steely Pate comes through and is like, my dude, the elm's alive, man. See how green the leaves are. That's summer leaves for certain. You just shared a beautiful quote where summer is invoked, nights of summer. Spring, a dream of spring. This is like the idea of the new dawn, the bloom, life and possibility and thrones. The next thing that Steely Pate says in the text, though, is
he says, coming this winter. Spring is coming this winter.
Spring is coming this winter. And everybody will understand what that means. So don't worry about it. Don't worry about the shield and don't worry about that log line. I've seen shields blazoned with skulls, he says, and wolves and ravens. Frankly, wolves and ravens, that sounds awesome and very much my shit.
Yes.
Even hanged men and bloody heads, they served well enough, and so will this. Steely Pate. This is like borderline clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose. This is amazing.
Great. And then I have a note.
Tell me, what's the note?
Because I would say, Oak and Iron guard me well, and making Dunk fill in, or else I'm dead and doomed to hell.
He was really leaning into the think about the Oak and Iron part.
It's real Aragorn before the Battle of Helm's Deep when he shouts at Legolas, then I will die with them. And all the men around him are like, you what?
Oh no! You're gonna what? You're gonna do what? With whom?
Or else I'm dead and doomed to hell. And Dunk's like, is this helping?
It was fun to hear it. It's like such
it's really good. It was really good. But Dunk's like, or else I'm dead and doomed to hell. Tough.
Listen, even Coach Taylor had some things to learn.
A lot.
So this is where Dunk is crying. He dries his eyes. Asks what he owes Steely Pate. And Joanna, what does Steely Pate, legend, icon, prince among men,
for you?
Tell him.
A copper.
A fucking copper. This guy, a couple episodes ago, was like 800. Okay, you've got some armor. Because I'm warming to you, 600. This is so telling. This is so indicative.
It's a champion of the people. I love that. So, like, you're about to hit a quote that I actually can't believe was cut out, and I have to wonder if it's going to be in one of the later episodes.
It's a shock to me. I was trying to think of the last time I was like, how could a line like this not have made it from page to screen? And I was thinking of like Percy and Poseidon.
I do have an idea, right? Okay, I'll read it.
Yeah.
So many come to see me die, thought Dunk bitterly, but he wronged them. A few steps further on, a woman called out, good fortune to you. So this is him approaching the tourney field, and basically all the small folk are, and I will get to this actually a little later on with like a theory that I read, but like all the small folk are coming up and sort of like wishing him well.
Yes.
Right? An old man stepped up to take his hand and said, "May the gods give you strength, sir." Then a begging brother in a tattered brown robe said a blessing on his sword, and a maid kissed his cheek. "They are for me." Why? He asked Pate. "What am I to them?" And Steely Pate says, "A knight who remembered his vows." So a knight who remembered his vows is like, so here's the theory, an unfortunate theory I have.
Oh no.
In the like knighting, the really cool knighting that we all love, the edit of Raymun being knighted by Lionel, and then we see Duncan kneeling and looking up and Sir Arlen looking down at him. I love in film and television when people look at each other from across time. Like I just think it's great, really good. Dunk is in his armor at that point.
Yeah.
There is a shot that was in nearly every single trailer of Steely Pate arming Dunk, like throwing the tabard over his shoulder, which certainly Little Egg was not doing. So it's almost certainly Steely Pate arming Dunk, which we did not get to see.
And is described in detail in the novella, the armoring stretch, and how Dunk is like becoming
that was
steel.
Cut.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that was part of that moment that he said it then. And like in the interest of like making this very like, I told you I cried. Like this very cool sequence of like, what if we edit it all together and it all just like becomes this sort of montage moment.
Yeah.
This also goes to like, in terms of like, we would happily welcome all of these episodes to be a bit longer. Happily.
Yeah.
A lot of people I saw on Reddit were saying that they thought that our guy, Humphrey Beesbury, like Ira at New York Comic Con said that there was a character who had like 10 minutes of screen time across all the episodes and they were basically all cut out. And so a lot of people were like, was that Lyman Beesbury? Did he have something to do in the tent where we saw him dancing? And like, did he just like have a few moments and they just like basically cut it all out? And Ira was like, it's a shame. It was a great performance, like blah, blah. Yeah. But we basically cut this entire character down to nothing. And so like in terms of like tightening up around just getting to the end of this episode.
Yeah.
Lyman Beesbury might have been part of it and this line might have been part of it. Or it's going to come up in next week's, like at the beginning of next week's episode or somehow.
I'm holding out hope mostly because that is the facts are compelling. The evidence,
the case who remembered his vows is like.
It's like.
Iconic.
It is genuinely.
We overuse that word, but in this case, it's true.
Genuinely iconic. My hope is that it is not cut, despite the very compelling case you just made, and is merely on hold because, as we talked about with Chris on Talk of Thrones, there is a tweak in terms of just the crowd as Dunk initially finds it. So they're not all like cheering for him right away. He goes out to silence. And so maybe we are building toward this moment, though frankly, it would be more about like Baelor.
Baelor does get a big, like when Aerion side comes out and Mika and all of them. And the crowd's like, yay, Dad, right? And then
they're like,
and then Baelor comes out and they're like, yeah. So, you know.
Yeah. And like you said earlier, they're like, we're here for history.
But the way in which that quote matters so much, to go back to that line you loved earlier in the season when Steely Pate's like, oh yeah, and everyone else here is come here to cheer you on.
Cheer you on, yeah.
Like literally, yes.
I know.
So yeah.
I know.
It's a hot bummer.
And I mean, this just connects A Night Who Remembered His Vows. I wonder if they felt like it would be inside of the episode, like we're getting it from Baelor at the end with what he says when Maker's like, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, well, this guy
is a knight who remembered his vows.
Is a knight who remembered his vows.
Yeah.
Like we kind of get it, but there's something about, especially because of the small folk orientation and rooting of the story. Like there's something about hearing it from Steely Pate that it's always felt so perfect.
I agree.
Ugh, God. All right. Well, they better put that in. I love this show. They better put that in. Ira, it's not too late. Put it in. It's not in. Put it in.
It's definitely too
God
late.
Damn it. Dunk meets his side.
Shout out Sir Humphrey Harding, who's strapped into
his
saddle, right?
Yep.
And a fun fact, that's Aerion's horse he's on.
That's right. And Aerion was thrilled and totally happy to hand it over
to give his horse over to Humphrey Harding. Sorry, I ruined your life, killed your horse, and smashed your legs.
Shut it like a baking dish.
Here's my horse. Yeah.
So we're going to go through everybody who is here when Dunk arrives and sees Sir Humphrey Harding, Sir Humphrey Beesbury, Sir Robin Riesling, I can't say Riesling, sorry, and Sir Lionel Baratheon. Very quickly, just who they are, reminding if we need to, and then like what their motivations are. Because an interesting thing, as Dunk said to Steffon.
Yeah, they all say it except for Humphrey Beesbury.
It is weird that he wasn't like, and he's my brother-in-law.
Yeah. And my name is also
say
Humphrey.
We have to love our brother-in-laws. Could have just done that. The Battle of Humphrey. Everyone is still talking about it, so we got to like give him an encore here. What their motivations are, because when Dunk said to Steffon, that's a Steffron, the Dragon House is not going to appreciate this opposition. Like, how many of these characters have cover from that or are worried about that is just sort of like an interesting thing to think about. Like, this is a bold thing to declare for the side against Aerion, Maekar, Daeron, and the Kingsguard. But they don't know when they're standing here for Dunk that Baelor is going to ride in.
Right, but like Robin Risling's like, guess what? I'm cuckoo bananas, so who cares,
exactly.
Right? And then the Humphreys are like, listen, is anyone going to begrudge us going up against Aerion when he did this shit to us? And then Lionel Baratheon's like, I have the second biggest dick in the kingdom.
That's right. And I'm going to probably sing you a song about it at some point.
But I have the second big. Have you seen how big my antlers are?
They're huge. Though, does that mean he has a tiny dick?
Probably.
It's compensating. He is compensating for something.
His dick is probably bad.
Oh, man. So Humphrey Harding, he's got the personal motivation. The debt is Aerion's, he says, and we mean to collect it. So a little bit of like, you're going against the crown here before Baelor rides out, but also like, I've got the cover of this is my personal vendetta, and this guy took something from me, and I get to try to take it back.
And Beesbury's like, ditto.
Beesbury's like, same.
Ditto, but in-law.
Ditto, but in-law. So Robin, we did get a scene with. I think that's like interesting that he was, we got to have a scene with him, but not Beesbury. I think you must be right about the cut material. It's kind of, it doesn't really make sense otherwise.
Release the Beesbury cut, release the Steely Pate cut, release Aegon going to recruit the troops.
That'd be great.
I would watch it all.
I would watch it all. There's probably some extra stuff with Red and Daisy and Bayonne that I would watch. Why not?
More women talking?
More women talking?
Who wants that?
Robin, of course, we saw him interact with Egg and Thunder at the beginning of episode 3. So what he says here is Sir Robin would die the king's faithful servant, but when the crown goes against the gods, Sir Robin goes against the crown.
Very much like a man has to have his code. He's got his own code. Yeah. Here's the deal.
Tell me.
If I'm doing a trial by 7 ever in my life, I won't make you fight on my side. Don't worry.
You won't have to make me. I'll do it gladly. Come on.
Yeah, but...
What? Yeah, but what?
You're too precious to me, and I don't want you on the front line.
I would be fierce out there. I would be fierce.
Oh, she is tiny, but she is fierce.
I would be fierce.
You would be.
Yeah.
I need someone who speaks in the third person on my side, and this is what Robin
you have all those
brings
other spots. Carlos can do that.
No, but I'm just saying that's my main point. Whether or not you're on my team, I guess you are on my team, and you're very fierce.
That's
great.
I wanted. So
I want someone who's cuckoo bananas enough to speak about themselves in the third person. I think you really want that berserker energy on your side.
I agree. It's nice that we got time with Robin in episode 3, but particularly useful that we got to like get the established, he's mad enough to make a choice like this. Yeah. There for the warrior, of course. I like the like when the crown goes against the gods. Again, 7, playing so many different roles here, the warrior, part of the 7. But like this idea that the horror of what Aerion has done is undeniable. And so he can invoke Trial of 7. They can invoke the Andal tradition, the gods, if there are 7, more likely to have a just ruling. But then somebody like Sir Robin, who has forged his whole identity around wrapping himself up in the idea of justice and righteousness and religious fanaticism, is going to be like, actually, you guys have that backwards. This is like a befoulment. Great stuff. And then Lionel. One of the strokes of genius of the season to give us more time with him. Really bears fruit here. Just makes it make more sense in so many ways. He and Dunk have a relationship.
An apple pun?
Could be.
Okay.
Could be.
Are
Bears,
you
antler helms.
Already thinking about the rose gold armor? You can't wait to talk about it.
I do think that armor looked great. I do. I do. Is he a fool? Yeah. But all men are knights and all men are fools where armor is concerned. I think we know that by now. I was thinking about with Lionel being here, he's got his own reasons, as we'll go through, but what Dunk said about Arlen earlier in the season to Egg at the end of episode 2, he's like, he was a hard man to know. And just the fact that Dunk is out there, like having these moments with Lionel and bonding, and like he's not a hard man to know. Like he is allowing someone like Lionel to get to know him, and that matters.
Mm-hmm.
Arlen had no enemies, but as we've talked about, did he have friends? Nobody remembered his name other than Baelor.
Guess
That's
what?
just not going to be the case with Dunk.
Everyone's going to remember Sir Duncan the Tall and the attorney at Ashford Meadow.
We already talked a little bit about this earlier. Anything else you want to say about Lionel and his relationship to Legacy and how that's driving him?
No, I want to talk about the rose gold armor.
Well, inside, within every man, there are many men, and on many men, there are many notable plates of armor.
Do you think Lionel Baratheon has had many men inside of him?
No question.
Mm-hmm.
When Lionel and Dunk were dancing and sharing good cheer at the beginning of the season, what I saw personally was heated rivalry season 2.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
I've literally seen that edit.
I bet.
Yeah.
I don't really get edits unless you send them to me, and you're not on TikTok anymore, so
I'll send you.
I'll need to get that in
my
Reels algo.
Lionel and Dunk dancing to Tattoo. I guarantee you it exists.
Fantastic stuff. He is, of course, the character who utters, "Who the fuck is Sir Stevron?"
Yeah.
We already loved Lionel, but if we hadn't already loved him, this would be the moment that forever enshrined him in our hearts, because that is just absolutely wonderful. And then, Egg is like, because Raymun got the Humphreys, but Egg got Lionel, got Robin. This, like, I could, if I wanted, opening note that we talked about with Egg earlier. Mm-hmm. That's like smart ass insolence. This is a titanic declaration of genuine allegiance. It is follow through of the highest order. We're mostly talking today about Dunk, Baelor, Raymun. We cannot talk enough about Egg and what he has chosen to do here.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Sir Steffron. He flips, Joe. He turns heel. Dunk walks into the arena. The crowd is still. Tension in the air.
Mr.
Fog.
Policeman, I gave you all the clues.
Truly.
Raymun this entire time's like, my cousin's underhanded. My cousin sucks. My cousin sucks so bad. He likes to go up against wounded people.
Constantly telling me I'm not ripe. Called you a cunt literally the second he saw you.
So,
mocked your hedges.
Huge surprise he flipped. But this is such fuckery because
great one.
Stevron showing up at the last second.
Yeah.
And saying, "Ooh, actually, you're gonna need someone else because I'm for Aerion." And like, so he has fucked Duncan so badly here because,
and he's not trying to hide it.
No, but he's just like he's like, "Oh, yeah, sorry. Right. Not only am I not fighting with you, but now you're a man down. And if you're a man down,
you can't do it.
You can't even do it at all.
You've lost. Yeah.
They're gonna make me a lord though, so don't worry about it.
Really wanted that lordship.
Told Sir Duncan to rely on you. That's what I'm saying. It's like, it's very folksy.
It is.
Yeah.
It absolutely is. It's incredible stuff from Raymun here. This is an incredible Raymun run. I think that Sir Steffon
told Duncan told Sir Duncan to rely on you, as you've written here in these notes.
Yeah.
Versus you told him to rely on you, which is what it is.
He definitely says in the show.
Oh, 100%.
Very notably.
100%.
Yeah, that's great. I fight with Prince Aerion and the Accusers, like the kind of like chill that seeps into your heart and your bones when you hear that. George. This is just vintage George.
But like, you're just on a whirligig of emotions here at the end of the episode, right? Because Sir Stepp, like Lionel's there and the Humphreys are there and Risling's there.
And
great. And then Steffon's like, I'm for Prince Aerion. And then Raymun's like, knight me right now. I'm going to fight with you. And then they're like, you're still one down. And then here comes Baelor.
Farts, and then here comes It is.
It's just like,
it's great.
And then the Thrones theme plays.
It's the best. Raymun being so beside himself here. The fact that Steffon has no shame, right? Mm-hmm. He's just like, my self-interest as a parent. Why would I feel bad about this? I have no problem telling you that this is the thing I'm going to do. You told Sir Duncan to rely on you. You traded your honor for a lordship. The way that he spits on the ground, Raymun slams the helmet into him. Get him yourself about his horse named Roth. But in the book, there's this extra degree of like cavalier. I don't even remember that I said this to him, which is so fucking galling and insulting. You told him to rely on you. Raymun had gone pale. Did I? He took the helm from his cousin's hands. No doubt I was sincere at the time. Fuck this guy. Fuck this guy.
And his really stupid armor.
I think the armor looks great. Is it practical? We'll find out. But I think it looks great. Guard your tongue, Raymun, he says in the books. We're both apples from the same tree, and you are my squire. Or have you forgotten your vows? No, Raymun says. Have you forgotten yours? You swore to be a knight. So another one of those lines and ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. It's just so good. This novella and the show is so good. Dunk forced to see, and when this happens with Steffon, another moment, another scales falling from the eye moment where like, okay, nobody remembered Arlen. They
Can't
wouldn't
trust
let
a
me
ginger.
enter the list. Is Dunk not a ginger?
He's like a strawberry blonde.
Strawberry
Whereas
blonde.
I would say Manfred Dondarrion
Oh my
and,
God, truly.
and
Yeah.
Sir Stevron are classic gingers.
It's funny because in the novella, one of the people who it's a little bit different when he makes this big speech. He's making direct appeals to people, as we'll talk about, and Manfred is one of them. And it's like the show had done too much work on the Manfred Dondarrion
Let's not even try.
to bother.
Yeah, let's not even worry about it.
Oh man, but it's like, yeah, he's got to confront how little honor means to most. Except for
My guy.
Is that Squire Raymun's music?
I think you mean Sir Raymun Fossoway.
Oh my God. This is the best.
Okay.
Knight me, I will take my
This
cousin's place.
So hot. So good.
Yeah, it is.
And this is our number one, I would say, evidence that Sir Duncan has not been knighted. Because it is clear
No question.
in the book than it is in the show here that the reason he hesitates to knight Raymun is that it's any knight can make a knight. And he's like, I'm not a knight and I'm willing to,
Yeah.
and I'm willing to lie about myself.
Right, but I can't pass
But now
that
I'm
on
gonna
to
like
Raymun?
pyramid scheme this whole thing, and what knight is Raymun gonna make? And it's just gonna be bullshit knights all the way down, you know? So like,
Not the coaching tree that Dunk wants.
no.
Oh my God.
So he's like,
Pyramid scheme.
and then in both cases the horn blows and Lionel's like, get out of here.
I
I'll
got
do
it, man.
I got it.
it.
But I love that like Lionel's watching the whole thing happen with Steffon.
Yeah.
And so he like sort of
Great
wanders
cut
over.
to
You
his
know, it's like,
face,
yeah.
too,
So he's like,
appalled.
yeah.
look.
So he just like wanders over. He's like, I'll do it. And then like when he does it,
Yeah.
sorry, I know I'm getting ahead, but like when he does it, Daniel Ings has been so good as Lyman Baratheon like this whole season, but he's like a clown in his own right, you
And
know,
this is
and then is so
earnest.
serious.
Yeah.
Takes
It's a
it really
sacred thing.
Yeah, that Duncan is lying about. And the difference between like Lionel taking it so seriously and being so sort of like honorable, dramatic about it, and then Sir Arlen just being like
The shrug. Incredible stuff. We're going to see that shrug in a second here. I
Yeah.
can't wait. In terms of what Raymun is doing, now, you noted this is a moment of consequence in history. So there's a part of this where it's like, I want to be a knight. This would be pretty cool. But like, let's be clear, as we've already noted, likely to be a bloodbath. Guess who we heard that from in this episode? Raymun. Like the stakes are clear. The prospect of something terrible happening to you is clear. He is swearing off a member of his own family, the senior branch of the apple tree, as we heard time and time again. This could not be braver. Like what Raymun is doing, it is one of the best examples and encapsulations of loyalty, right? Because part of what he finds so galling and offensive in what Steffon has done is like, you gave him your word. Does that mean nothing? Loyalty, which is, of course, a form of honor. So there's honor just in abundance. It is oozing off Raymun here.
like what Baelor does at the end of this episode, during which I cried, is a massive deal because this is heir to the throne. He's going against his own family, like all this sort of stuff. But like, as we talk about levels of privilege, Squire Raymun Fossoway from the lesser branch of the Fossoway family tree being like, I'll do it. You know?
Maybe.
Like, that's like Frodo being like, I'll carry the
Exactly.
ring. You know what I mean?
know,
It's
it
just
really
sort of
is.
like, though I do not know the way. You know, Raymun has no armor.
Small hands do it because they must.
He's not a knight, and he's just sort of like, I'll do it. And his exposure is so much higher than Baelor's exposure, even though like Baelor is like quite exposed as hand of the king and heir to the Iron Throne, but like he's a seasoned warrior,
The hammer.
incredible
Breakspear.
fighter.
Yeah.
This is a huge advantage for Duncan's team that Baelor is joining the team here. Like, this is just massive. Raymun's like, I'll do my best. I guess. And we've seen him fight against Steffon at the beginning of the season. It didn't go well for him.
Did not do great.
So, it's such a moment.
Yeah, it's God tier. It really is. I read this line on Talk the Thrones, but there's a moment. This is from slightly earlier in the novella, but when Dunk makes out the curve of the Fossoway apple in the distance, and the line is, "It looked like hope." It looked like hope, and like that's what Raymun is giving him here.
Wars.
It's just the best. So Raymun kneels. Dunk reaches for a sword and he hesitates, as you noted, as we talked about with Chris on Sunday or Friday, whatever fucking day that was. What is time? Readers have spent years, some debating, mostly believing, as we've talked about a lot already today, that Dunk was not knighted.
We did get an email from a listener being like, it had literally never occurred to me before you guys were talking about it on the pod. Yeah. So like, there's some people who read, whatever.
Yeah. There are a number of different nuggets. We already shared the monstrous lie line, which is a really big data point that we and other people point to. But as you noted, this scene, there's also like the burning of the red ears when it's like, who knighted you? What's going on, etc. This scene is a really big one. That was true in the novella, but it is ratcheted up here by incorporating that cut
to Sir
Arlen. Carlos, can we see the shrug? Watch this pod on your video app. Spotify.
So good.
Is it full confirmation? No, but is it certainly a big indication? Yes. I thought that was a fascinating choice to include that, both for what it tells us, but also because it means it's on Dunk's mind.
We got an email from our listener Lauren about sort of like why some of the many reasons why Sir Arlen wouldn't knight Sir Dunk. We just called him Sir Dunk because that's who he is in my heart. Anyway, why do you think Arlen did not knight Duncan?
I mean, I guess my assumption, just based on a moment like that, the shrug being included, is that the show intends to answer that for us at some point. Like because again, it's not definitively confirmed at this point in the text, even though there's a lot of evidence.
And we do know, skip ahead if you don't want any trailer spoilers, I guess, skip ahead is like, there will be more flashbacks than we've seen. Yes. Is something we know from the trailer. So will we get more information on this?
Right.
Concretely.
And so, I guess there are a number of possibilities. I think that we have gotten enough moments in the story and certainly in the show where Dunk is forced to kind of confront the less savory aspects of how Arlen treated him and the way that he behaved, that there could be a kind of like lack of care. That's possible. I think it could be that he intended to one day and just didn't and then he died.
To die from a cut.
Didn't mean to die. I mean, he was just fucking up a storm until the last second. They were laughing, huddled in the rain with their hearts all beef, and then he dropped dead. And Dunk had to bury him in a very shallow grave. Okay. Very shallow grave. Do you have a theory for what the reason is most likely to
I don't have a good theory, but I really do believe that he meant to eventually. Like, he's training him. Like, I do think he meant to eventually.
I think there could be there could be an intention and a lesson in like almost the thing that fans have latched onto and that we talk about a lot of like, well, does it matter? Isn't one of the key lessons of the story that the thing that matters more is the choice that you make, the way that you live your life? And that maybe that was something Arlen was trying to actually teach him by withholding that.
He doesn't seem that deep to me, but like, I also think that like, yeah, great point. I also think I understand what you're saying. I got the joke.
Talking about his giant dick.
Oh, do you want to do the hand gesture again? No, not that one. This one. Okay, so I think this story is different if Dunk is 17.
Yeah. Yes.
And it's like Arlen meant to make him a knight maybe when he turned 18 or something like that. Right. But like, you know, he's 30 something and it's like
he spent a lot of time being like, I've got to get you. You gotta sheath that sword, you gotta dip that quill, gotta take you to a brothel so that you can fuck. But we're gonna wait. We're gonna hold off.
I'm gonna take a hard left turn from the sixth grade boy alley that you found yourself in.
Yeah, I mean, of all the shows where it's completely appropriate.
It's true. All right. Our listener, Michal, wrote this great email, which I thought was so beautiful. While Dunk may not be, / definitely isn't officially a knight, the way the episode framed Lionel's knighting of Raymun read to me like the show offering our guy a kind of spiritual dubbing. The slow motion, the voiceover, the shots of Dunk handling thunder like a boss and then from above as if he's kneeling in front of the viewer, all seemed deliberate, formal, and most importantly, transformative. Dunk has already been through a night of vigil and contemplation, albeit not in the traditional sense. Now in simple armor and stained tabard, the words of the absent oath wash over him and he takes on his new form. He becomes Sir Duncan, who doesn't just fight for justice and honor with instinct and bare fist, but a man who can take the field of battle, stand up to a formal challenge, and offer an even greater one in return. And so just for people who don't know all the ins and outs of becoming a knight, when you're a squire to become a knight, in many versions of this, you spend the night before your dubbing in a chapel. This is like the knight's vigil. So this idea of like Dunk's sleepless night in a jail cell is his knight's vigil before this official dubbing. I thought it was really beautiful. And like the show is definitely like, if not literally this, just having him kneel there while Raymun is kneeling and Lionel is saying the words is,
no question.
In hand with all those moments that Baelor says, "Rise, Sir Duncan."
Yeah,
So.
I love that email. I love your observation earlier of tracking the little knightings along the way. I think it's possible that at some point, again, to be clear, we don't know, genuinely don't know if this will happen because this is not confirmed either way in the canon yet. I think it's possible at some point that Dunk is like formally knighted, and that could be a very meaningful moment.
Do you think later he's like, "Egg, can you just do this and don't tell anyone?"
Maybe. I mean, it's possible. Like, it's interesting. Again, Brienne is always on our minds.
Can a prince make a knight?
Can a 9-year-old and a...
Can any royal make a knight? I actually don't know the answer to that.
A king can make a knight.
Yeah, a king can make it. But can a prince make a knight?
Let's call up Daeron II.
Okay.
He's got time because he didn't come to Ashford Meadow. Everyone else is very busy.
It's true.
Everyone else is very busy. But, we've talked about this many times on many pods in the past. We will talk about it in the future. One of our shared favorite moments, and it's obviously on our mind here when Lionel says any knight can make a knight, is Jaime knighting Brienne. We love it. Season 8, episode 2, just...
I think of it daily.
Life-altering, truly. Yeah. And so we want to be clear, we would not lose that moment for anything. It is precious to us and sacred to us. But...
However...
Brienne was a knight before that. She was in all of her actions and the things that she did. And so I kind of like the idea of like eventually Dunk getting in a kind of parallel, a formal moment that would be meaningful to him and would be beautiful, especially if he shared it with certain people who meant that much to him. But also that he would know and we would know, like thunder there, nodding along.
Yeah.
That he was a knight well before the tip of that sword touched his shoulder. Raymun, I should not. Do you doubt my courage? No, not that. But still, when he leaves, he's feeling as relieved as he was guilty. On and on the evidence goes. We'll keep talking about this as we cover future episodes and seasons. But Lionel's like, don't worry, I got you. Everything that happens here for Raymun is great. Being knighted by the Laughing Storm is just all-time shit.
Sick.
Fucking awesome.
Sick.
That's amazing. With respect to Dunk, in this moment right here, this is like, Raymun's got to be like, this is pretty cool.
Sir Stevron wishes.
No doubt, Sir Stevron wishes. He's like, yeah, I know the Laughing Storm. Do you? That is such a great thing for Raymun to be able to brag about to Stevron.
Knighted.
The Laughing Storm doesn't know who the fuck you are, except that you're an embarrassment in a turn cloak.
And he knighted me.
We got chills watching this. The tonal shift from Lionel, as you noted, the slowing of the rhythm of the scene, the shift in the camera angles, the incorporation of Dunk and Arlen with Lionel and Raymun. We have to see it.
In the name of the warrior, I charge you to be brave. In the name of the Father, I charge you to be just. In the name of the Mother, I charge you to protect the young and innocent.
It's so good. Will you ever hear or see this in your mind when you think about a knighting, or will it always be Jaime and Brienne first?
It's Jaime and Brienne first, but this second. And who knows what time will tell. Also, I should mention, like we've mentioned a few times the way the the original Thrones theme kicks in at the end. But that score,
so good,
haunting and beautiful, really,
so
really good. Can we return to the 7 theory?
Let's do it.
Okay, we got a bunch of emails for people. So to recap, in case you didn't listen to last
this is animated the bad babies.
It has.
Love it.
They love a theory. If you
they know to hold it loosely, but they love a theory.
If you were not here for the 3.5 hours we spent talking about this show last week, this is a theory I picked up from a comment somewhere about this idea that like the 7 are present here at the tourney, and helping Dunk along the way, much the way that like Athena disguises herself for Odysseus and sort of helps his journey along the way. She shows up in many different forms inside of the Odyssey, which we will talk about
soon
this year on this podcast.
Mere months away.
Our listener Mikhail wrote in, I'm not going to say like all of the ways in which they mapped, but like casting Baelor as the mother, I thought was like a really interesting connection. Yeah. Sir Lionel as the father. A lot of people think Sir Robin Reisling is the warrior, so does Sir Robin. But this is the kicker of this email. Duncan as the maiden. Is Duncan our canonical virgin, perhaps? Isaiah wondered, could Daeron be the stranger, outcast, wanderer, and related to death in the sense that his dreams predict or, in that way deliver death, which I really liked. Jean-Michel said Sir Arlen is the father, potentially.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly
not the maid.
Sean says the stranger is Steely Pate. My man sent Dunk to joust and now face trial by combat without a breastplate after talking all that trash on everyone else's over-decorating but at least existing full plate armor. Dude should have to partake in the trial of 7 for attempted murder.
Listen, he spent a lot of time being like, mine will serve you better if you take a lance to the face. Less time talking about what would happen if you took any sort of sharp object to the torso.
Ring mail here. It's just ring mail right here, okay?
But it's double chain, so.
Hannah said, do you think we're not learning anything about Sir Humphrey Beesbury because he's representing the stranger in Dunk 7?
Sure, let's go with that as the reason why.
And then Amber said, fellow witches, you'll always get it for me if you say fellow witches. Amber wrote, the mother, I thought it's the prostitute, the one that told them to be kind to Dunk. The look on her face as Baelor wrote in, I believe, made me think maternal vibes. So
I did like that we got a cut to red because especially in this, on the precipice of the trial of 7 and this really dire circumstance, remembering that she was like, be kind to your body.
Yeah.
You've only got one.
All right. And then this is the blessing of the 7 theory, which is an older theory off of Reddit from Oneris Dracontos.
Sure.
I did my best and it wasn't very good. VR listener Vivian. And this is not that characters, but that sequence that we were talking about that leads up to Steely Pate saying, like all the people who come to greet Duncan on the way, in the small folk on the way to the tourney field.
Yeah.
So this is what this theory reads. The smith, the first aspect of the 7 who are one to have blessed Dunk is the smith, an allegory of work and creativity. He is represented in Steely Pate. Indeed, a blacksmith who, quote, blesses Dunk by fixing his shield in exchange for a symbolic payment, a copper penny. To emphasize the idea, Pate accompanies Dunk to the camp of the trial and calls him a true knight, or more precisely, quote, a knight who remembered his vows. The mother. On his way to the site of the trial, Dunk crosses paths with a series of people who wish him well in the fight. Quote, a few steps farther on, a woman called out good fortune to you.
Yeah.
End quote. The 3 female aspects of the Andal god are the mother, the virgin, and the crone. Since the woman is described as neither young nor old, the most likely hypothesis is that this bringer of good fortune represents the mother, an allegory of love and mercy. The crone. After the woman, an old man approaches Dunk, who invokes divine strength. Quote, an old man stepped up to take his hand and said, may the gods give you strength, sir, end quote. Despite being a man and not a woman, the fact that George R. R. Martin emphasized the character seniority suggests that he represents the crone, an allegory of the wisdom that should guide the faithful. However, it should be noted that even Steely Pate is partially associated with this aspect since he is previously described holding a lantern, one of the crone's features.
Right.
The warrior. After the old man, Dunk meets a begging brother, a humble member of the faith clergy who blesses his sword. Quote, then a begging brother in a tattered brown robe said a blessing on his sword. End quote. The focus on Dunk's weapon suggests that the character represents the warrior, an allegory of courage and strength in battle.
Yeah.
The maiden. After the begging brother, Dunk receives a kiss from a young girl, quote, and a maid kissed his cheek. She evidently represents the maiden, an allegory of innocence and chastity. The father. Dunk manages to find 5 allies: Raymun Fossoway, Robin Risling, Lionel Baratheon, Humphrey Harding, and Humphrey Beesbury. One is missing in order for Dunk to be able to fight for his innocence, and suddenly Baelor Breakspear Targaryen shows up as Dunk's 6th champion. Not having his own armor available, the prince borrowed that of his son Valar. Quote, then came a voice, I will take Sir Duncan's side. You're going to read this entire quote later, so I will let you do that. But he says, but he mentioned specifically his armor. Mm-hmm. My son was good enough to lend me his. End quote. Baelor, the hand of the king, Daeron II and his heir, has a reputation as a righteous man and takes part in the trial, highlighting the fact that he is a sire. He embodies the aspect of the father, an allegory of divine power and justice. And last but not least, the stranger. Dunk is a nobody, and yet 6 illustrious knights who, before the Ashford tourney, he did not know in person, take his side, despite the fact that he did not think it was possible. Quote, 6 knights, Dunk thought. They might as well have told him to find 6,000. He had no brothers, no cousins, no old comrades who had stood beside him in battle. Why would 6 strangers risk their own lives to defend a hedge knight against 2 royal princelings? End quote. The 6 providential champions fighting alongside Dunk represent the stranger, an allegory of the unknown and particularly of death. The favor granted to Dunk by the stranger, an ambiguous aspect of the Andal god, neither male nor female, both human and bestial, is revealed in his duplicity as both blessing and curse.
It's great.
Hot shit.
I love it.
Just hot shit from like over a year ago on the old reddit.com. But just like, you know, this stuff is fun, really fun to me in terms of like, you can map it any way you want.
Yes.
But I love this idea that the 7 are here and they are present, and there is something as much of a farce as this trial is in the first place.
Yeah.
There is some divine hand guiding the way for Duncan here to at least have 6 people by his side and a sword and a shield and some armor. Like, you know, that, like Odysseus on his way home.
War horse.
Like horrible things happen to Odysseus on the way home.
Damn spoiler.
But every so often, Athena is here, nudging him in one direction or another to get the things he needs to continue his journey. And I just think that that is such a cool idea, that I love that we like first sort of raised last week, that our listeners have wrote in about, that people have been thinking about for years as it comes to this text.
It's the best. I mean, we'll circle back to it after we see how it all goes and map things on one more time. But I love it as well. And I love, much like with a prophecy or a dream, the way that these symbols can fit in a number of different ways, and that it's all valid. Like I'm excited to talk about this more next week, but like I think the as you just read, the framing of Baelor, the association with Baelor as the father is, I think, very apparent. But to get an email characterizing Baelor as the mother, like, actually is also very compelling and makes a lot of sense. I think to that last point that you were making, the idea that the trial of 7,
love and mercy.
Yes, mercy especially. Like, I think that the terror is real. The sense that this is daunting and impossible is real. And that's part of what the trial of 7 brings. Mm-hmm. That smugness from Aerion, that he is in a position to survive this, navigate this, do it at all in a way that Dunk isn't. And the volume of it, the scale of it, the scope of it is part of what gives him that. And to flip that and to make that a source of community for Dunk, it's just like such a beautiful way to think about it. I'm excited to keep tracking that theory and returning to it. I think it's a great one. Fantastic stuff. None of the characters in, despite the book passage and the people in the assembled fitting many of those descriptions as you just read in the show, none of the characters here in the grandstands are going to be listed.
Nope.
But Dunk has to appeal anyway. So Raymun has replaced Steffron, but Dunk is still one short. And he learns from Aerion and then confirmed by Lord Ashford. It's 7 or bust, man.
That's a dumb rule.
I agree. You should be able to decide. But again, if they're like
you're on the back
it's
foot.
all about the 7 and the gods. So like they almost
he's
are
like, can I fight at a disadvantage? And he's like,
no, you can't. You can't. And so he begs a moment to address the crowd, right? He rides out And this is different in the book, as I mentioned, because he is like Sir Arlen, Sir Manfred, Sir Otho, making direct appeals, invoking Arlen. But in the show, we've seen that already. We've seen him go to all of these characters at the end of episode 1, the beginning of the episode 2, and ask them if they remember Arlen, and they don't. And so in the show, it's this really brilliant little tweak where he's not saying, do you remember Arlen? He's like, I know you don't. You've already shown me who you are.
Yeah.
And yet I'm going to give you one more chance, right? And it's this great moment for Dunk where it's like it could be so defeating and crushing, but I felt such pride here because he's like learning and growing and adapting, and we're watching him on that journey. It's like a great little origin story moment. He was a good man, he says of Arlen, and he taught me how to be a knight, not just sword and lance, but honor. A knight defends the innocent. That's all I did. I was not Sir Arlen's blood, but I have followed his example. As your sons will follow yours, who will stand and fight with me? From I don't know the right words when he was burying Arlen to this.
I think I love a speech on horseback.
Oh my God. It's great.
But it is not this day.
My favorite, as you know.
Death.
This day we fight.
That's Theoden King. Death. Or, it's out of fashion now because Mel Gibson sucks, but Braveheart,
Sure,
like they may take our lands, we'll never take our freedom. Like it's a talent to do a speech on horseback. I feel like all of these speeches originate from, this is the second, but the last time I will reference William Shakespeare in this, but the St. Crispin's Day speech. The
bard is always welcome.
He is, but the St. Crispin's Day speech from Henry V is like the epitome of the pre-battle let us inspire speech. And I was looking back at it, and there's a couple, there's the whole thing worth watching, worth listening to. If you watch Brenna do it or anyone do it, who cares? But this idea of St. Crispin's Day, the speech that he gives, that Henry gives here, is about as he's psyching up his army to go fight. He's like, we're fighting on this day, St. Crispin's Day, and forever in history, people will remember this day, St. Crispin's Day, and they will remember what we did here. And they will remember who was here. And he says, familiar in his mouth as household words, Harry the King, Baelor, Henry the King, Bedford and Exeter, Warwick and Talbot, Salisbury and Gloucester, 7. He lists 7 names here, right? And he's like, be in their flowing cups freshly remembered. This story shall the good men teach their sons. So like this idea of like your sons will, like when we see the brood of Bracken let go this fart, he sits down and wraps his arm around his son, right? And this is what Duncan is saying is like, I followed example as your son will follow yours, right? And so like this is what is true in the St. Crispin's Day speech is like.
With the Brackens, it's probably true, by the way.
Right. What are you, a Blackwood? So like, I think that.
These guys.
I think what it's always worth remembering is this moment inside of, and you can agree or disagree, and largely I disagree that like war should be this enshrined, but inside of these medieval or Renaissance or whatever texts, like this idea of like there's nothing more important than this, what we are about to do for honor, for duty, for love, for whatever it is. We are warriors, we are fighters, we are putting our very flesh on the line, and it is going to be worth it for generations.
Right.
I'm going to paraphrase, every dude who's not here with us, everyone who's sleeping right now is going to wish they were here.
Right.
Every year when St. Crispin's Day rolls around, they're going to be like, fuck, I should have been there. You sitting there in the stands are going to wish you were down here on my team, the 7, fighting at this tourney at Ashford Meadow, because it is going to be enshrined in history what we do here today. Standing up for honor and for duty and for love. And the tales will grow in the telling of it, as they did with St. Crispin's Day, right? It becomes this myth. And you weren't there. You really had to be there. If you were Exeter or Gloucester, you were there. But if you weren't there, And so I just like, I love this speech. And I love thinking about what Dunk here says here is so true. He is greeted with jeers and with silence and with farts. And we'll talk about that in a second. But like, But like, they're all going to be so embarrassed. And who's watching? Who's in the stand? It's not just the Brackens. The Blackwoods are there. The Lannisters are there. Yep. The Dondarrions are there. The Tullys are there. Every single family is here. They have sent someone here to goddamn Ashford Meadow. Right. And so they're going to tell the tale for generations.
Sigil spotting everywhere.
In every region. Those puppeteers are going back to Dorne. They're going to tell you what the fuck happened there. You know what I mean? Every single region are going to tell the tale of Sir Duncan the Tall and of Baelor Breakspear riding out onto the field.
I mean, my God. I love that. It's always great when the bard appears. It is.
He's always here.
I think what I particularly love about that is there's a version of this moment where Steffon, Sir Stevron, is giving this speech and is only hitting that note. Like,
the glory.
The glory. Do it for the glory. Have you had a tough day? Try more glory. And Dunk is starting to see the world more clearly and make an appeal and understand, but he's thinking of it, first of all, through such a personal lens, but also still so rooted in the idea of what is right. So, like, I love that he's talking about Arlen, especially because we got the shrug. We got the cut to the shrug. And we're carrying that with us. We know Dunk is thinking that.
Right.
But he's still like, on the morrow, we're going to show them what his hand has wrought now in totality. So what, like we've been talking about all season, is he seeing more clearly about Arlen? But what is he still championing? Where is a lesson that he's still heeding that he hopes other people will find power in too? And so the Brood of Bracken making a fucking farce of this moment is akin to him making a farce of Dunk's entire life, right? And so Brood of Bracken very quickly, like, if he had said, yes, I'm with you, the other side quakes. They're terrified because he is not only the brute of Bracken, Bracken's Blackwoods, we talked about him a lot across Hot D, but he killed Quentin Blackwood just a few years ago, 206 AC, in Attorney in King's Landing, in hideous and fabled, infamous fashion. People know who he is. He is like a champion of note who can do horrible things. The fact that he, of all people, is the one who stands up, looks at his son, and then rips this fart. Once more, must you mock me kind of a note for Dunk. Yeah. But, like, he's not deterred by it. And the thing that he leans into then is that beat of, like, what is the true heart of this, right? So the Lyanna Mormont, like, but you refuse the call indictment of who they are, has courage deserted the noble houses of Westeros. I will not believe it is so. Are there no true knights among you? It's more of the scales falling from the eyes, seeing them clearly, not wanting to believe that's who they are, even though they've shown him time and time again that that's who they are. But it's like, he's not just saying, come be famous. He's saying, a true knight would know that this is right. Are none of you able to see that this is right? That what I did was right and what he did was wrong?
Absolutely. And I think, I mean, and I don't think you're saying this, but I don't ever think of the Kristen's Day speech as like just about glory and history. Remember, I know you're not saying that, but like the we few, we happy few, we band of brothers. Yes. Like if you spill your blood here with me today, then you are forever my brother. And it does not matter where you rank in society. Yes. You know,
I'm not saying that about the bard, nor just the difference between how other people in Dunk's spot would make the pitch.
But I do think what's interesting about the St. Kristen's Day speech is that there is like that note of upward mobility inside of it. Sure. If you, I don't care who you are, if you fought with me here today, you're on the up and up. And, you know, you are forever going to have that. Whether or not that was actually true in terms of Henry's reign is probably not the case. But anyway, also, for the Brood of Bracken, I should say, his fans are a little pissed about this fart situation because in the book, the Brood of Bracken is the only person who deigns to respond to Dunk, right? He says, that may be, said the Brood of Bracken, who had least the grace to reply. Right. But is your cause not mine? I know you not, boy. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So,
I would say that the television adaptations are, it's complex always, especially inside of the Bracken Blackwood feud. I'd say they tend to be more pro Blackwood than pro Bracken as a rule.
I did think the email that got from our listener Ash, who called it yet more blatant Blackwood propaganda, was like really funny.
Yeah, exactly.
We probably don't have time for me to read the entirety of this incredible email we got from Max, who does like an Alice with 3 fingers level dissertation on the fart. Just like what genuinely one of the best emails I've ever read from a bad baby. Is like incredibly good because he's like citing Rabelais and a lot of stuff. But talking about Max wove together this tapestry. I'm just going to do my best to summarize. Taking us from the Game of Thrones theme that starts season 1, episode 1 with the like what you like to call the hippo spray, right? The shitting.
Yeah. Spot the lie. You can't.
And then we wind up here with the Game of Thrones theme song without that association. Right. But on that journey, what Max is arguing, and this is like a tradition of a certain kind of literature, is this idea. And like, I've not read the Rabelais source that he is citing here, but I have read Canterbury Tales. And Canterbury Tales is like hugely baudy. You know, people's like assholes and like women's lady gardens and like all, you know, it's like it's body parts are everywhere.
Shout out Chaucer. Yeah.
And so, but it's the great equalizer. Everybody shits and everybody farts. And so this idea that like you can make yourself the whitest white knight in the King's Guard and you still have to find a place to poo. Right?
Yeah.
And
this is what I was saying last week. I'm so here for this.
And
I love
so
it.
I'm just saying, like, when the Brood of Bracken lets go this fart, Max's point was like, he's up there in the stand with the nobles.
Yeah.
And he farts too. And this is the great equalizer. And so it's like this idea of like, it is revealing the humanity in all of us. And also associating like Dunk's expulsions, which are both in the shitting and then in the puking later due to like nerves and anxiety and a desire to be honorable.
Yes.
And then linking it to the fart in the Brood of Bracken, who is just there for derision and humor.
Yeah.
Actually, Dunk's massive bout of diarrhea is more pure and honorable.
Certainly. It's
than
truer.
the bodily functions of the people around him. I probably did Max a huge disservice in summing up the whole thing, but like
I love it.
Gallant knighthood isn't something Dunk has to aspire to despite his having a body that shits and vomits. It's something that is always accrued to him precisely because he lives by a code that recognizes every human and their excreting body is just as valuable as every other.
Again, Red would chime in and say, take care of your body. You've only got the one.
It's really good stuff.
Thank you, Max.
Yeah.
We will always accept thesis-level dissertations on bodily functions, and so will Ira Parker. I think that's clear.
Absolutely.
Will we get another piss or poop thing in the 5th episode? Probably.
Almost certainly.
Feels like a lock. I can't wait to find out what it is. Feels like a lock. Baelor. He missed the Brood of Bracken farting.
Do you think he was? I saw some great Instagram reels of people like pretending to be Baelor, like waiting for his moment. He's like listening to the speech. He's like, "Here we go. This is gonna be a really cool time to come." Then he has to like wait
Opening
for the
act,
fart. Yeah,
warm up music.
Yeah.
Dunk gets one more great line.
Are there no true knights among you?
That's my cue. That's my cue.
Like, the
gate does creak open right then. It's great.
No matter what is true of like Baelor's timing, it takes a long time to get into plate armor, and a lot of people to help you.
For sure.
Especially if that armor belongs to your smaller son, so it's not quite your size.
Pretty tight.
Yeah. So you have to like
tight fit.
Jimmy yourself in there, right?
It. Yeah. Dick joke.
Yep. I always get it. Except for sometimes I don't. So this is something that Baelor decided on a while ago. He didn't decide it because Sir Stevron decided not to keep his vow. Baelor decided this a couple hours ago, at least.
He's been getting ready. Yeah. Pre-game ritual. Let's see this, Carlos, before we talk about it.
I will take the Duncan side.
Just an incredible moment. Let's read the passage from the book because everybody thinks that it is Prince Valar. Across the field, Prince Aerion laughed. The dragon is not mocked, he called out. Then came a voice. I will take Sir Duncan's side. A black stallion emerged from out of the river mists, a black knight on his back. Dunk saw the dragon shield and the red enamel crest upon his helm with its 3 roaring heads. The young prince, gods be good, is it truly him? Lord Ashford made the same mistake. Prince Valar? No. The Black Knight lifted the visor of his helm. I did not think to enter the lists at Ashford, my lord, so I brought no armor. My son was good enough to lend me his. Prince Baelor smiled. almost sadly. So again, he doesn't have his own armor. He wasn't planning to fight, but he decided to do this thing and he had to borrow his son's armor in order to do it. I love that mistake in the novella. It makes sense that we didn't get a Prince Valar here because we haven't spent really enough time understanding who it is, but you can see that it's snug,
maybe he was the character that was cut.
Could be. It's entirely possible. Dunk's face here, Egg's face, Aerion's face, of course. It's just an instantly iconic, wonderful moment. And it's so good in the text. I loved getting to see this brought to screen. I got chills watching this. I thought it was fantastic.
Ira Parker said, in sort of a preseason interview, he was asked, I gotta say, these Junketeers are doing a great job of asking questions and then sprinkling them throughout the season. So in the preseason interview, Ira Parker was asked about this specific moment and he was like, this is my favorite moment of the season. He's like, I've watched it back a million times. Getting to use the theme in an unironic way here is just
it's fantastic.
Light of my life.
I already liked the episode 1 theme music cut to Diarrhea, as we talked about on those pods. I thought it was very clever. But to the way that your heart just surges then when you get the full, pure, true, earnest, right version of it here, and it feels so earned. It's just incredible.
And it's so good. And I really do wish that House of the Dragon had come up with its own theme song. I just I love this use of it. It matters that it's infrequent. And so then when it kicks in, we're like, oh my God, here we go.
Totally. Maekar is not as thrilled as the rest of us are. We're all like, this is one of the all-time iconic moments. Mika. We're going to be talking about Baelor along with Oberyn. I will be your champion for the rest of our lives. Mika, not so. He's like, have you taken leave of your senses? His armor is also sick, by the way. The man attacked my son, to which Baelor replies, this man protected the innocent, as every true knight must. Let the gods decide if he was right or wrong. So again, that question, what makes a knight a knight?
Right.
What is right? What is wrong? Why do we do the things we do? We've talked all pod about why Baelor made this decision. But on the Oberyn comp front, that I will be your champion moment, but also what about what I want? Justice for my sister and her children. If you want justice, you've come to the wrong place. Tyrion says, I disagree. I've come to the perfect place. I want to bring those who have wronged me to justice, and all those who have wronged me are here. That's not what Baelor's doing.
Baelor's not going to be caught monologuing. That's not what he's doing here. That's not what's going to happen to him. And this man protected the innocent is another place where our listener Taylor pointed out that instead of defended the weak, it's protected the innocent, which is
I love it. I love that he's really earning the lifelong Arlen hype since the joust back in the day. Sir Arlen often told me, we heard Dunk say earlier in the season, that you were the soul of chivalry and that one day the 7 kingdoms would be safe in your hands. And all of those things we talked about earlier today, the practicality, the responsibility, the burden of being next in line for the throne. There's also the aspect of this decision of what kind of realm do you want to lead? What do you want your kingdom to look like? And the choice that he's making here is a part of that.
I know Birdie's already your fave, but
I just think he's great.
Can I read you this quote that he gave about this moment and about leadership?
I would love you to.
He said, I think there must be a deep thirst in most of us to realize that there is a space in a cynical world for heroes and for people who choose to do the right thing. And what an important time to tell stories about leaders who choose righteousness over self-interest. But it's not a given. And I think what makes it exciting on a simple level is you don't know before until after.
Right.
And that's what he says. You don't know before until after, as my granny used to say. And I love that phrase. You don't know before until after. As my granny used to say, he's not a good man. There's no such thing, I don't think. Goodness is as goodness does. We'll find out in each moment how we'll behave in the next.
God.
So this choice he makes. It's very much, it's going to sound like Tolkien, but actually it's kind of Hemingway. There's good in this world, Mr. Frodo, and it's worth fighting for, right? That's not a Tolkien line. That's a Peter Jackson line, crib from Hemingway. But there's good in this world, Mr. Frodo, and it's worth fighting for is when you see Baelor Breakspear, when you see Raymun Fossoways, when you see Dunk make these choices. And that's why this story is so, again, this is still George R. R. Martin's brutal world. You know what I mean? But it's just these choices that these characters make to do what is right.
It allows you to believe that other people in your life could do things like this, and also that you could find the strength to do a thing like this. It's really a balm for the soul. I just think it's great. And now of all times, we need it. So good.
We have a couple more listener emails I just want to hit really quickly before we get to the spoiler section. Our listener Anna Grace said this thing that I really love, the way she put it. We talked a little bit previously about the way people look at Duncan when he's not looking at them.
Yes.
Plumber, Steely Pate, Red, et cetera, et cetera. Anna wrote, something about Sir Dunk the Lunk reminds people of who they want to be. The way it's coming across in the TV version for me anyway is that we're not getting Baelor the legend come to save the day. We're getting a perhaps more human Baelor learning from a hedge knight and putting that lesson into practice. Show Baelor might already be a good enough guy, but there's something about Dunk that inspires greatness. This idea of like, that's the end of her email, but like this idea that like, who does Steely Pate want to be? He wants to be a guy who gives a knight a shield and armor away for a copper because of someone who did the right thing. Who does Red want to be? Maybe like a woman who offers more kindness than she did Derision a little bit earlier. You know what I mean? Like, who does Egg want to be?
Who does Raymun want to be?
Who does
Someone
Raymun want to be?
Val.
You know, it's just like...
Yeah. It's so great to think, too, about, and we get this obviously on the printed page, but one of the things that the adaptations can really cement for us is the way that those ripples play across time. And we have the full picture here of the influence that Dunk has had on all of these people. The history books in this moment will be like what Baelor Breakspear came in and did. And I will say, like, I got, like we said at the beginning of the pod, just, you know, anecdotally hearing from more people about this episode, first word of almost every text was Baelor, exclamation point, right? This is one of those moments that people are going to talk about forever. But the way that the show slightly, as we've already talked about, slightly tweak things so that the influence that Dunk had on that, and then these things are all informing each other. It's just the best.
And that's what, at its best, Fire and Blood and House of the Dragon does, is just sort of like,
exactly,
here's the story you didn't read in the history book. Here's what happened in the room behind closed door when even Aegon was sent out. So the only people who were there were Baelor and Duncan. And only they know what happened there, you know?
Yeah.
A listener, Cody, wrote in to say, regarding Raymun,
yes,
are we worried that he's not wearing any armor?
I mean...
So Steely Pate puts the armor on Duncan in I guess, a cutscene or whatever. But he's also there kind of squiring for Raymun.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He didn't have an extra bit of chainmail to throw on Raymun.
Well, I mean, we haven't seen the actual contest yet. My expectation would be Baelor rides off and Dunk rides off. They're not going to instantaneously fight. They should have a moment before the actual contest begins where I would expect somebody to put some plate on Raymun Fossoway.
Put at least a helmet on Raymun Fossoway, dear boy. Okay, and then Kev says... I'm assuming this person's Kev based on their email. They didn't sign it. Okay. I'm confused on how the Kingsguard would continue the trial of 7 with Baelor joining Dunk's side. Wouldn't they be breaking some kind of vow battling against the heir? So my answer to that is that's actually kind of the point. And we may or may not hear about that, but like, no, the Kingsguard cannot touch Baelor Breakspear. So all of a sudden, Aerion's side is a little neutralized by the fact that there's 3 people on his team cannot touch part of Dunk's team. Tables are turning. We'll see what happens.
I can't wait. I'm very excited. Very sad there are only 2 episodes left, but very, very excited. Book spoiler time. If you don't want to hear about things that are going to happen, either presumably in the next couple weeks in future seasons or way later in the canon, it's your time to bounce. Carlos put a spooky sound effect here so that people know it's time to leave. Okay, did you go? Are you gone? Are you gone? Great. Book spoilers.
Can I rapid fire some emails really quickly?
Let's do it.
Nicole says, I just started book 2 of Duncan Egg and I can't believe Sweetfoot is not with them and gets no mention. Please tell me the show will correct this grave error. I doubt it.
We'll find out.
Okay.
But we are going to get a donkey next season. So that's something.
This is a category I'm calling is insert literally anyone actually Blood Raven.
That's an amazing one.
So Blood Raven, who is not in this book because I believe George R. R. Martin had not thought of him yet. But does have roles to play in the future, does often show up in disguise. So you are well within your rights to ask, is that Robin sitting in the tree watching Dunk poop
Robin. Poop Robin.
Blood Raven.
Use his proper name. Poop Robin.
But our listener Garrett pointed out that the birthmark on the face of the fortune teller in episode 3 really made him wonder if that could be Blood Raven.
Interesting.
Blood Raven being a member of the royal family who very ambitious, very moving pieces behind the scenes. And
certainly associated with vision and prophecy.
Here's what Garrett said. Who benefits more than Blood Raven from the death of Baelor? Blood Raven is the next hand and he holds a position for years. Aerion, who's unpredictable and actually insane, is exiled and thus removed from the politics of Westeros. My question asked is, did Bloodraven have anything to do with this? In a future story, we see him glamour as a different person. Mm-hmm. And the saying, how many eyes does a Lord Bloodraven have? Do y'all think the fortune teller is a soft launch for Bloodraven in this series, or am I off my rocker? I think you should always ask yourself, was Bloodraven actually involved in what was going on here?
It's fun. Why not? I don't think that was Bloodraven, but I like it. Why not? Could be.
It would make a little bit more sense to me that it's played by the same actress in the inn. If Bloodraven's like, that's a lady's shape that I could take. You know what I mean?
The glimpse of Bloodraven that we got in Hot D is very visiony, you know? So
yeah, but when Ryan was like, that has nothing to do with how Bloodraven will actually show up, I was like, then why do it? That was so weird. Why show Bloodraven if you haven't cast Bloodraven and it's just going to be a different person then?
Yeah. I mean, especially this show was already in development. So knowing that at the absolute latest, we'd be getting Mystery Knight Season 3 Bloodraven. Absolute latest.
I bet we'll see. Bet we'll see Bloodraven in Season 2 somehow.
Probably.
I bet it. Okay.
I think it's very likely given the heavy Blackfire.
The dagger.
Emphasis. Yeah.
I think we floated this, but.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
We've just gotten a bunch of emails lately from people being like, especially in the wake of the prophecy and thinking about the line in the prophecy of all who know you will rejoice in your death. And so thinking then about a King Aegon who is even darker than we already were led to believe, because King Aegon the Unlikely is responsible for the tragedy of Summerhall. That's just a fact. Mm-hmm. But the nature of everything leading up to that is much more of a mystery. And so putting in this show, all will rejoice, had us wondering last week, how far off the path has Aegon gone in pursuit of this? And how influential could knowing the prophecy of the dagger and having the dagger be on all of that?
I feel like there's just no question given the...
I guess it just depends on like whether or not how much George, who is now pissed at Ryan, wants to like link what they've seeded in Hot D into his current baby and out of the Seven Kingdom.
Because he's like, I told them to do this and I'm going to like reclaim that in a way that I can control. But so like in the Mystery Knight, this is obviously connected to Daeron, but also to the idea of prophecy, as is the case with like the Rhaegar Scrolls quote. There are plenty of examples where now we come across them in the canon and we're like, oh, probably that was the dagger. So from the Mystery Knight, this is Egg, and gives us an insight into the stock that he's putting into the dragon dreams already as a very young boy. Someday the dragons will return. My brother Daeron's dreamed of it, and King Aerys read it in a prophecy.
On a knife.
Maybe it will be my egg that hatches. That would be splendid. So King Aerys read it in a prophecy. That's like, gotta be this.
It could be, but like, Rhaegar didn't read it off a dagger.
As you have noted many times, George is constantly tweaking and updating. Who knows what that scroll was? Who knows?
What if a scroll is also a dagger? When is a scroll not a dagger?
Why not? It's got words printed on it.
Okay. So Justin said possibly the prophecy dies with him at Summerhall. Like, is that where we lose the chain of custody?
I don't think so. I think Rhaegar had it.
Or he had a scroll.
Which was a dagger.
Which was also a dagger.
What a story. What a story.
Okay, that's it for dagger.
On the Summerhall front, since we're there, let's hit the very notable tweak in Daeron's dream. This is more Summerhall stuff. So they added a line for the show, and the laying the track to Summerhall really continues here. Frankly, at this point, it's going to be weird if they don't do 13 seasons and get us to Summerhall, given the amount of Summerhall forecasting we've gotten.
But I've seen you, sir, and fire. And fire is added. So the prophecy is about Baelor dying.
Right. Well, I mean,
probably.
I think I think, as you've noted many times, like any dragon dream or prophecy can be applied to many different things.
No. I'm just saying,
but certainly
previously we interpreted that this dream was just about Baelor dying and Dunk surviving the trial of the Seven.
And certainly that will still
be
an
going to be a huge hot
Yeah.
bummer for everyone who's like super excited about Baelor this week.
I know, it's going to be a real all-time throw. It's like, oh boy, next week.
And fire was added because we're just sort of like, you know, Egg being like, did you use pollen to make that fire? Love the fire bits.
Pyro.
You know, we're just like, we're just putting fire where we may.
So do you take it as, okay, it's like all of these things. It still applies to Baelor and Dunk. Surely there will be like a torch. A little bit of like Daemon, White Walls, Dragon, prophecy stuff there as well for Novella 3, Season 3, and then obviously Summerhall.
I think it is. I think it's Summerhall. I think it's anything that happens to House Targaryen that like Dunk has his hand and foot in. Is
anything along the
going
way.
to be related to that. There's a funeral pyre, right?
Yes.
We've seen it in promo photos. There's going to be a Baelor funeral pyre. So there will be literally a fire. So if people want to be like, well, that was the prophecy.
For sure.
They can. And then people who know about Summerhall are like, there's more fire to come.
Yeah. But like also, why not both? Why not all of the above?
Not
why not all of the above? I like that, the other Targs. I mean, obviously, we've talked about the Aemon line to Sam many times. My brothers dreamed of dragons too, and their dreams killed them, every one. Obviously, as the passage is read, Egg becomes obsessed with this. But Mystery Knight, when Dunk and Daemon II, John the Fiddler, spoiler, he's like, just gets another I dreamed of you. Like, this is just a thing for Dunk, to that point about all the different moments along the way. This is very much like White, you were in White, head to heel, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We'll talk about that more as we get closer to that season. But the Targaryens are dreaming of Duncan and his role in history pretty regularly.
Yeah.
Pretty regularly as they go. I always like the foot. I like that we got the call out of, and you kicked him too, right? And Dunk's like, yeah, given, as you noted, the way that the foot kind of hangs over, especially after what happens to Baelor. Sometimes I sit under that tree and I look at my feet and I ask, if I couldn't have spared one, how could my foot be worth a prince's life? Standing firm on my corner still, that he's going to punt Rhaegar right out of. Just punt him like a football right out of Summerhall.
Like a little baby football.
Why not? Why not?
Since we're talking about the Mystery Knight, can I read this passage that someone sent us about the idea of Dunk as the stranger? This listener signed their email Lady Olenna, so I'll give it to them.
Oh, wow. Nice.
From the Mystery Knight, quote, Black Tom stumbled backwards, yet somehow kept his balance. Dunk bowled right after him, smashing him with the shield again and again, using his size and strength to knock Heddle halfway across the sept, and he swung the shield aside and slashed out with his longsword, and Heddle screamed as the steel bit through wool and muscle deep into his thigh. His own sword swung wildly, but the blow was desperate and clumsy. Dunk let his shield take it one more time and put all his weight into his answer. Black Tom reeled back a step and stared down in horror at his forearm flopping on the floor beneath the stranger's altar. You, he gasped. You. I told you. Dunk stabbed him through the throat. I'm better with a sword.
I think that from the moment of Baelor's death onward, Dunk will think constantly about the death that he leaves in his wake.
And the death that he brings wherever he goes.
Yeah. On that front, Dunk as like kind of the trial by combater, worth noting here in the spoiler section, every novella features trial by combat, frankly, in a way that I think might feel a little weird at some point, but the fact that other characters are involved is maybe fine. Obviously, in season 2, Sworn Sword, we're going to get Dunk versus Lucas Long in Chit Standfast, and then Daemon versus Glendon at White Walls. And then, of course, as we've already talked about a few times from, this isn't one of the novellas yet, but from World of Ice and Fire canon, we know that Lionel and Dunk have a fabled trial by combat in the far future, because Lionel's like, your fucking kids, Egg, fucked off and broke a betrothal, and now I'm going to rise up against you.
Lionel talking about wanting to bloody up the Kingsguard in their pretty white dresses. He and his boyfriend Dunk will.
Yeah. Well, how's that going to go for Lionel?
Not well.
Not well. Not well. On the not going to go well front, I mean, man, the Septons say we must love our brothers from Baelor right before his brother's about to kill him.
Him being just like crammed into that armor.
I know, when he pulled this, giving us the pulling off of the helm in particular is like diabolical.
Really tough.
Diabolical.
Really tough. If you don't know, because we keep forgetting, but like people listen to the spoiler section without knowing, but like
sickos.
Mika will stove his brother's head in from behind.
Yeah. By accident, as he's gonna tell you. He didn't mean to.
And, there's a question of like, would the helm have like protected him if he was wearing a helm that was actually fit for him and not his son's helm? Yeah. But they'll pull the helm off and basically his brain falls off. So if you're wondering what the gross goopy thing that's going to happen next week's episode is, I believe it's Baelor's brain falling out.
Someone might shit in their pants during the trial of 7 too. It's entirely possible. Okay. I mean, your guy Bees does die by groin stab. So
You better get him alive before they kill him via,
I'm sure it's coming.
groin death.
Yeah, be patient. You're going to get it eventually. He's not going to get to say a word. It's so sad. I wonder if they'll even mention that he died. Oh, boy, bees.
You seem so delighted. Okay.
No,
right.
You know what? I love bees.
Right.
I love the Beesberries.
You just tried to hurt me with Beesbury. I'm going to hurt you now. I'm going to hurt you now.
Apple Wars?
Apple Wars. Raymun Fossoway claims the green apple. Raymun Fossoway belongs to me and not you.
Everybody makes mistakes.
And not you.
Everybody makes mistakes,
not
including Raymun.
What I do like is that Raymun Fossoway is like, oh, sorry, I was just repainting my shield. And I'm hoping that we're not going to get him fucking off to repaint his shield.
He's got to wait. At this point, based on the pace of the show, he simply has to wait until after
it
the
has
trial.
to be
That
after.
would be nuts.
But the Fossoway house splits, and there's the red apples and the green apple Fossoways. And Raymun Fossoway is the founder of the green apple Fossoways. And so I think you have to acknowledge that he belongs to me and not you. You can't have I'm allowed
to like him as a character.
You can't have every single red apple that exists on the planet. I've got one sour green apple.
I don't want every red apple.
And I get Raymun Fossoway.
Honeycrisp, Pink Lady,
and
Sugar
I get
Bee.
Raymun Fossoway. And you can have Steffon Fossoway and all of the other red apple Fossoways.
Steffon?
But you don't get Raymun Fossoway. You know you don't.
I'm allowed to like him as a character.
You're not allowed to claim him in any way whatsoever. You can't say our shared fave Raymun Fossoway.
This is like saying I was about to say, this is like saying that because I wear a lot of orange for Syracuse and McLaren and, of course, the Orioles, I have to like the Ashford sigil. And then I remembered that I literally said that.
Yep.
Fuck.
Mine.
Tough. Let's see. What else quickly to wrap here? How many Aegons have been king? 4? Well, there's going to be a 5th, and it's going to be this one. Aegon the 5th, the unlikely.
5 Aegons.
I hope he says that when the Great Council chooses him. I hope that's his coronation speech. 5 Aegons. Oh, man. Incitement to revolt. Now, listen. We are mere years away from the next Blackfire Rebellion. We are mere years. Just observing it. It's canon.
She's just saying Aerion had some points. She and Chris Ryan both are Team Aerion. That side of the table.
Never.
Cursed.
On the Fossoway front. This is not a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms spoiler, but it is potentially, this is what we were alluding to earlier, a House of the Dragon spoiler, because Tumbleton. That's where, the Fossoways are mixed up with, that's got to be what cost them the lordship.
We don't know.
Right?
We don't know, but it could be. And
I feel like it must be.
If Ryan Condal wants to give us more pieces of shit from the Red Apple Fossoway branch of the family tree for you to love and admire, then
who says no?
He can go for it. I would love to have a Fossoway.
That'd be great. What else here? For not knowing my place, I guess in general, just with Baelor, the fact that he suggests like a version of the thing that gets him killed is just, boy, so Georgian. For not knowing my place, I like that idea as kind of a primer for we did lament that when Dunk finds his elm earlier, there's like some flies, but we don't get a dragonfly. Thus, I think diminishing the likelihood of getting a dragons or dragonflies contemplative moment at the end. But, for us as readers, obviously this transition to, okay, well, I thought I wanted this thing. And sure, in some ways I still do, certain parts of it, but Aerion, Daeron, look at what that royal life in that fancy house led to. Like, maybe my place is actually the better place. And so if Egg is going to come with me, it's going to be as a hedge knight squire.
On a donkey.
And we're going to go to Dorne because I want to try to find Tansel because she's not too tall.
For kissing.
For puppets.
And kissing.
For puppets. So I had put this in the spoiler section, but the Kingsguard Gambit, like Baelor.
I don't think that needs to be in the spoiler section because that's just the rules. I'm just saying that's the rules of
I guess, yeah. It doesn't. I had put it here just because it does. I assume he'll
explicitly say
it in the next episode as he does in the book. But yeah, it's an interesting I think connected to what you were saying earlier. It's a moment where you're like, right, you're thinking through the tactics. Mm-hmm. You're thinking through all aspects of this. And so we'll obviously talk about that part of his character more next week. Dragon in human form, obviously this guy's going to drink wildfire and die. I'd say you hate to see it, but with Aerion, you don't. And that's it. That's it. We did it. I can't wait for episode 5. I'm really sad the season's almost over, but I look forward to covering the big penultimate and then the coda with you. With CR, we will be back for Talk the Thrones after episode 5 on Sunday. Thank you to Carlos, Chiraboga, Arjuna, Ramgopal, Jomia Daeron, and Jacob Cornett, who is here with us today.
Great mustache. Do you think Jacob would dye his mustache with some
What do you
honey?
think of Humphrey Beesbury? Jacob, do you have an opinion? Let us know.
Let us know.
Drop it in the comments. We will see you guys on Sunday. We will see everyone on Sunday night for Talk to Thrones on episode 5. We will be back before then, though, for Best of the Century so far, V-Day special.
Here in the spoiler section, why did I wait till now? I don't know. But let's say, so like, what were some of the categories that you threw out at me? It was just sort of like steamiest on-screen moment, best yearning.
Let's see. Favorite couple we actually got. That's what the fanfic is for. The ship we never got, but that you still ride for. Surprising pairing you end up caring about. Most anguish-inducing declaration of love, hottest sex scene that made you a romanticy fan, or the romanticy sex scene you're most excited to see adapted as a book category, because we'll mostly do TV and film. Something about a musical accompaniment during a sex scene. Something about I have questions about the physics.
You just went down
or
like
just
a
description of love.
A sex spiral. Yeah.
Well, I mean, what else is new?
Yeah. So if you have any thoughts about that, hobbitsanddragons@gmail.com, any of those categories.
And we'll see. They might all change between now and Thursday.
But you can email us. And the whiteboards will be back.
They
and
will.
We'll see you soon.
Bye.